advices, some coaching advice inside there, which all of you could participate for free. So basically, this is a channel for us to be connected to all of you, right? So you can scan the QR code. I will give you like 1 minute to do that. Right. You can see some familiar names inside there. Okay, we're good. Just give some thumbs if we are good, okay? All right, cool. Azura, next slide. So today I'll be sharing with you about the overview of Telencop, the job market versus the industries, and also some guideline and advice on what you can do, to take charge of your career roadmap. Right, next. So how many of you have heard about Telencop, right? So if you are familiar and have heard about who we are, maybe you can give like 3 thumbs in the chat box. Or maybe some of you may have heard about Telencop, but you don't really know what we do. You can give like 2 thumbs. I don't see any thumbs lah. That's bad. That means nobody knows us. Come on, yeah, right. Okay. Good. I just want to assess actually, in terms of our branding in the Northern, right? Actually, I am from the industry partnership, and then I have my associate here with me, Miss Azura. We are under the industry partnership, right? Yes, great. Yes, thank you. In the chat box, yes. Good to know that you are aware about Telencop, right? So actually, for the Northern region, there's only the 2 of us, myself and Azura, but we have our headquarters in the Central, right? So yeah, what we do, in Telencop, we are actually an agency under the Ministry of Human Resources, right? We were created way back in 2011, right? So back then, the government realized that in order for the country, to be a developed country and a nation, a high-income nation, we need to have the right expertise and talent, to transform Malaysia into a global talent hub. So what we do, we attract, we nurture, and we retain the right expertise to spur our economic growth, right? So we engage a lot with our stakeholders in the likes of what we are doing with you guys now. Okay, we do a lot of intervention programs, right? Meaning that which is related to talent issues and talent matters. And then we also introduce best practices with the private sectors. And every now and then we will advocate policies which is related to talent matters, right? So basically, you know what we do right now. I mean, roughly, right? Okay, next. So where does Telencop fit in, right? We act as a focal point that links the industries, the government, and also the academia. We mediate and act as a bridge between these strategic partners. And then from our engagement with the industries, what we do, we collect their feedback, right? And identify what are the talent issues, what are the current and future demand. And then we escalate those issues to the relevant stakeholders, right? The academia, the learning institution, and also to the government in the likes of Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Human Resource, Ministry of Home Affairs. This is for immigration and expatriate matters, right? And usually we will develop a targeted intervention solution with these stakeholders to address some of these issues. And some intervention may involve policy changes where necessary. Okay. So since our establishment, we have engaged with more than 20,000 industries across 18 sectors and within 6 regions, right? So yeah, I'm glad to know that some of you already heard about Telencop. Okay, next. So we intervene, our intervention are anchored on 3 primary thrusts. So the first thrust is to optimize Malaysian talent, right? Basically, this one, we focus on our local graduates, the JPA scholars, those that are in colleges, the TVET institution, vocational, so on and so forth, right? And when we talk about Malaysian talent, we also do programs for those women, the female workforce. We call this as an unconventional talent, right? And in fact, I think recently we are venturing into the space of a senior talent. So yeah, so look out, for more news on this. Okay. And then our second thrust is to attract and facilitate global talent. So this one, we focus on Malaysian professionals and students abroad and also expatriate. So we realized that in order to achieve our goal as a developed country and high income nation, we need to have the latest technology, the latest skill and know-how to attract and bringing the expatriate in Malaysia. So our FDI have to be friendly, and certain industry area will help us to achieve this goal, right? Okay, the third thrust is to build network of top talent. Okay, so this is about setting up a networking platform for the local and also foreign talents, right? So you're talking about Malaysian diaspora, right? So Malaysian diaspora is basically Malaysian who are working and residing overseas. We term them as a Malaysian diaspora. Okay. And these are the programs that we have embarked under each initiative. Okay. So the first program is on the structured internship program, or in short, we call it SIP. Is everybody okay? Give me some thumbs up.
Yes.
Are you guys with me? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Right, okay. So this SIP program basically is an structured internship program whereby we allow the companies to hire the interns, and then they are eligible to claim for the double tax incentive from the government, from Telencop in this case. The reason why we are doing this is because we want the interns to have a quality and meaningful and also value-added internship. Remember back then, we used to have an internship program whereby the students were not given any framework, for them to do the internship. Basically, their task is like, okay, mungkin berubah. Okay, is that better? Okay, can see me better?
Yes.
Azura?
Yes, for now we
Yeah.
can see.
All right. Okay. Cool. So yeah, on this SIP program, basically for us to ensure that the student get a quality internship program, right? And then the companies can enroll with us. It's free. All our programs are free, so they'll be eligible to claim double tax incentive from the government. And as for the students, what they can benefit is that they have a value-added or a meaningful internship program, so that they can be ready for the industry later on, right? This is our intervention at an early stage, right? Okay, for the students, what you can do, you can browse through our website to find out what are the companies that are participating in this SIP program. And then when you want to go for your internship, right, you can, look at the list of the company, right? Okay, cool. Okay, all right, noted. So, okay, our next program is on nurturing expert talent, or now it's called My Next. Basically, this is an online assessment or profiling tool, right? This one, we work with the IPTA and also IPTS across Malaysia, right? I'm not too sure whether SENTRAL is one of the, institution that already participated in this. Mr. Guy, on the next profiling? Okay. Anyway, what the objective of this next program is for us to have a group of data, a pool of data actually for all the students in Malaysia, the graduates in Malaysia. And for the student, they are able to do their own assessment, profiling, and to see what are their passions, what are their gaps, what are their strengths and weaknesses and all that. And perhaps they can also kind of like do some assessment about whether they are in the right courses, or what kind of career that they want to do later on, part of their life, right? So yeah, so basically this is what we do, right? And for the employer, in future, we are, trying to make it this available, this data available to the employers, so that they can see when they want to do some hiring or recruitment for their employees, they're able to see from this database that there is a direct, almost close matching to the graduates that they're going to hire in terms of their education and also their personality and all that. Right? Okay. Our next program is on. All right. Yes, thank you. Okay. So our next program is on a STAR, or we call a Scholarship Talent Attraction and Retention Program. This is one of the hot selling program, in the market, because industry loves this so much. They get the JPA scholars, which is the cream of the crop, right? So basically, we work with JPA, and the government realized that some of these scholars, they are not able to get placement in the government or public sectors, right? So hence they are allowed to work in the private sectors or industry. So meaning that they're serving their bond with these private sectors lah. Okay. So yeah, this is another pool of talent that the industry can explore. We have a database on this as well, right? So the other program on graduate space is on Telemobility. This right now we have one program named My ASEAN Internship Program. Okay, so My ASEAN is basically a talent exchange program. So I give you an example. For example, companies like Intel, they have an entity, subsidiary in Thailand, Intel Thailand. So if they want to hire an intern from Malaysia and send it over to Intel Thailand, so they can take up this My ASEAN internship program with us. So the incentive that we're giving to the employers is that we facilitate the visa application and also the flight ticket reimbursement for the interns if they are registered in this program. Okay, and then likewise, if Intel Thailand would like to send any of the intern to Malaysia, we can also facilitate that exchange program. The objective of this is for us to give some sort like exposure, at an early stage to our students. So feel free to check out this program with us. Who knows, maybe you want to be, any one of you would like to be part of this internship program under this My ASEAN internship. Okay. All right. The next program is on the semester break program, or in short, we call it SPP. This is like a special or talent program for the students, right? During their school break, okay, semester break and all that, whereby we will connect them to the industry leaders, and then they can have some sort of like a visit, to the plant. Yeah, back then we used to have a site visit to the organization and also the factories but nowadays it's more on a virtual engagement, virtual tour of the program. I mean, the factories or organization okay. So yeah, this one we run this program twice a year, 2 cycles, right? So this is open to all graduates. Okay. So the other program is on young employability students, or YES in short. This is basically to equip our students or our graduate with information, with some guidelines and guidance in terms of to increase their employability. So we do a lot of boot camp, like a workshop with them, so that they can be exposed in terms of how to do career resume writing, more interviews, coaching and whatnot. So this is also open to all graduates in Malaysia under these young employability students. Okay. Okay. As you can see, under the optimizing Malaysian talent, we focus a lot on the space in the space of our graduates, local graduates, okay. But however, we also look into this female workforce. We have a program what we call the Career Comeback Program, or CCP in short. This is for industries who are looking into diversity, to have a diversity workforce in their organization, right? So as we know, there's a lot of women out there or female workforce who have worked before and they have taken a career break. And if they wish to return and work within an organization, we have to facilitate this program. Okay, so we engage with companies who are interested to do this with us. To run a workshop, to do a career, career comeback what you call a fair with the industries, right? So yeah, this is another avenue of for the industries to get the Malaysian talent lah. Okay. Okay, so once we have this woman talent on board, so we need to have a system, you know, the workplace must be able to support these employees to stay in the market. So we strongly advocate the work-life practices, okay? So I'm sure some of you, you know, have already heard about work-life practices, you know, and in fact are already practicing this in your organization, right? So basically, work-life practices is where we try to integrate between the work and also your personal life and your social life lah. Okay. For example, you know, we facilitate with the industry to have you know, to implement policies on work from home, flexible work arrangement, you know, and also maternity benefit, paternity benefits, and all that. Right. So we work hand in hand, or we journey together with industries who wish to implement some of these work-life practices. Okay. So right. The second thrust is about attracting and facilitating global talent. So we have a program which we call Returning Expert Program, or REP. Basically, this is for us to attract and try to entice our Malaysian diaspora who are residing abroad to return to Malaysia, you know, to serve their country lah. What we can do, we are trying to tap in terms of their knowledge and also their skill, you know, to support the growth of our nation. So we have a pool of data of Malaysian who have already registered in this. Right now, they're just waiting to get placement to come back to Malaysia, right? So if you find anyone, you know, overseas who wish to be on this program, you can just advise them to take up this returning expert program with Telencop. They'll get certain incentive and benefit from the government once it is approved lah. Okay. And then some of you may be aware that the Malaysian, the My Expat Center, or the Malaysia Expatriate Talent Services, is also under the purview of Telencop, right? So remember earlier I mentioned that in order for us to grow, we need to have a certain skill and expertise from overseas, expatriates and all that. So we cannot deny that fact, right? So yeah, under this Malaysian Expatriate Talent Services Center, we have a program what we call the Resident Pass Talent, or the RPT. I think this is quite famous, right, for education association like you guys, because sometimes you have to hire what you call overseas lecturers and all that, right, in certain field. Okay, so basically what we do, we, for those eligible or qualified expatriate, they are eligible to get a 10-year renewal pass to stay in Malaysia. Okay, so yeah, this is something which might be attractive to some employers out there lah. Okay, all right. The other thrust, which is to build network of top talent. So this is all about network. So we have what we call the Industry Academic Collaboration, or IAC. Okay, yes, no problem. You can get in touch with us later, okay, to find out more. Sure, no problem. All right. So under this IAC, or Industry Academic Collaboration, so what we do is that we try to bridge between the industry and also the academia, like you guys, to work on you know, activities or program that can be beneficial for both parties, meaning that the industry can get the specific talent, ready talent from the institution that they're working with. So we advocate a lot on that as well, right, under the IAC. So, and then we have the diaspora network, expert network, and all that. This is all about building the networking to tap the knowledge and the skill, right? And then last but not least, the program that we have is Life at Work Awards, or LAWA in short. We used to do this on an annual basis. Basically, this is a platform whereby we try to give recognition or acknowledge to organization that is practicing the work-life practices, you know, so, and best practice sharing. So we give them award. But now, since the COVID-19, we kind of like put this event on hold, right? So yeah, maybe in future, once we reactivate this back, Central College can also participate in this. Okay. All right. So in a nutshell, what we do is we try to facilitate or match between the talent supply and talent demand to the programs that we have. And some can be at an early intervention, right. Okay. So next. Yeah, so the year 2020 has been a very tough year or tough time for all of us. Okay, and to some of us, they are still struggling or barely trying to stay afloat in their business, right? So the pandemic have impacted and affected the whole world. And in fact, we in Malaysia are not spared from this. Right? Okay, as you can see in the news, right, almost every day, and I'm citing Penang as a example in here because we are staying in Penang, right? So you can see in the news like almost every day, hotels have to cease their operation. They have to close down, right? International flight have to be halted. We cannot enjoy the shopping mall anymore. They are either partially closed or temporarily closed, right? And some even closed for good, right? So this is all happened because of the lockdown, the MCO, the travel ban restriction on certain industries, the non-essential versus the essential industries and whatnots, right? But I think recently, coming up to the second half of our year, at least I think we are seeing some lights at the end of the tunnel. Okay, so yeah, I think everybody is doing their responsibility to make sure that we get out from this tough time. So with the intensive vaccination rollout around across the country, and then the recent Langkawi travel bubble that has been implemented last week, and the reopening of certain industries and sectors, right? So hopefully we get out of this gradually. Right? So yeah, right. Next. So now let's take a look at the job market versus the economic outlook, right? So our graduates, actually, our fresh graduate especially, they are already having difficulties to get jobs, right? As you can see, our rate of unemployed graduates in 2019, we are at 13.8%. Okay, and then when the pandemic hit us, the numbers have shoot to 18.7% of fresh graduates being unemployed. So in a way, the current crisis has worsened the whole situation, right? So this is a huge number. Okay, and the hardest industries that have been hit by this pandemic is, of course, the tourism, those travel industry, hospitality, meaning those that are in hotels, right? The catering businesses, the food and beverages, mass transportation, as well as the education, industries and retail sectors, right? Okay. And if you can see from the graph, these are the selected industries. So for tourism industries, the number of job loss in 2020 is about 40,000 people who have lost their job, as opposed to the number in 2019, which is only about 12,000. So yeah, that is how bad the situation is in the tourism industry. I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm just giving you the real what you call situation that we have faced, that we are facing actually, right? So yeah, and for the affected manufacturing industries, these are for the SMEs or the small businesses, right? So where and they also fall, they might also fall under the non-essential businesses, right? So the numbers of job losses is about close to 20,000, right? As opposed to 12,000 in 2019. Okay. So there's a lot of numbers. So that have been retrenched, which you guys have to compete. So, however, this pandemic is not all a drawback. There's some good in this whole situation. There's always a blessing in a way. So some industries are benefiting and thriving from this crisis. So what industries that are booming, or benefiting from this crisis. They are, if you see it in the box there, pharmaceutical industries. Basically, these are the one that, especially the one that are doing the research for the vaccine. Industries like the Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Johnson and Johnson, and even our local pharmaceutical, which is Pharmaniaga, right? So they are taking advantage of, not taking advantage, like they are booming because of this situation. The other industries that are thriving would be the medical supplies and equipment. Of course, obviously, we use a lot of masks, we use a lot of gloves, during this pandemic, right? So they are booming. In fact, there's not enough supplies out there in the market, right? So for the ICT, information and communication technology, this is also booming because there's a lot of dependency, usage of internet, the IoT, cybersecurity, digital, platform and all that, right? And then for the electrical and electronic industry, surprisingly, those in the semiconductors, they are also booming. This is because of the surge of the digital technology, and there is a need for chips to be produced. So they need to produce more chips to support these ICT industries, right? And then for the logistic, yes, I think most of us a frequent user of Panda, Food Panda, riders, pickup delivery services, FedEx, so on and so forth, right? So and for the e-commerce, they are also booming. So because people just stop going to the to the retail or to the mall or supermarket anymore. So we are more into this online shopping. So those industries in the likes of Shopee, Lazada, so they benefit a lot from this. So the 9 September shopping, and I think there's another one coming up, which is 10 October, 10-10 shopping spree. Okay, watch out for that. Okay, right. So the other thriving industries would be the data analytical, global shared services, or GBS in short. So basically, this is the support that you can render to the stakeholders across the world. So they don't need to be present. So these are the industries that are booming and also thriving due to this pandemic. All right. Next. So now let's take a look at the pandemic and the future of work. Okay. So even before the pandemic, right, some industries are already talking and implementing the future of work. So I'm citing companies like Intel, Dell. They have been doing future of work way back, like almost 10 years ago, right? Working from home, telecommuting and all that, right? So there are three elements in this future of work. The first one is on the work itself, right? So the world of work is changing, and we are shifting into the AI. We're talking about IoT, Internet of Things, and R4.0, smart manufacturing, robotic, automation, so on and so forth. This is the work that has changed or that has been created, right? Due to this, in view of this future of work, right? And then the other element is on the workforce itself, the future of workforce to support the new work, right? So the future of workplace. Sorry, what I meant here is the future of the workplace. We are also changing. We're looking at a flexible work arrangement, work from home, telecommuting, hot desking. Hot desking basically is that in organization nowadays, they don't really need to have a designated cubicle. They don't have a designated cubicle, meaning that they have one common desk or one common area whereby employees can come in and just plug in their laptop and work from there, right? So it is cost saving to the company because they don't have to provide each and everyone a cubicle or a desk, and then at the same time it is can be used for everybody that come into the office on that particular day, right? So hot desking is also another workplace that is also finding its popularity in the organization, right? And some, they don't even need the employee to be physically present at the workplace, so they can do some remote support, right? So yeah, these are among the feature of workplace that is also taking in or changing, right? And then the other element is on the workforce. Of course, when you have a different types of work and a different type of workplace, you need to have different types of workforce to support all these changes. So nowadays, we're talking about the data analytic, data scientists, software engineers, or even freelancers or gig economy. Some employees, so some graduate, they might not want to be what you call attached to a specific employer, so they prefer to do like freelancing. So they have more free time, right? So this fall under the gig economy. So this is also the trend in our future of work, lah. Okay, all right. So what I'm trying to say here is that since the COVID pandemic hits us, it has more or less accelerated the arrival of the future of work, right? Yeah. Okay. So many industries, they have no choice, but they are compelled to implement this future of work or work from home under this new norm. Before this, back then, work from home is a choice to the employer, meaning that employer can choose to have this work from home or flexible hours as something, an additional benefit to their employees, right? But nowadays, it's no longer a choice. It's like a must-have. Industries just need to be compelled to this, right, under this new norm, or else they cannot function their business, right? The operation need to move, and then at the same time, the employers need to ensure the safety of the employees. Hence, they have to implement the work from home policy. So somehow, the pandemic kind of like accelerate the arrival of this future of work. Okay. And then we can also take a look at the jobs of tomorrow. Actually, this is no longer jobs of tomorrow or future work. This is now. It's already happening now. I mean, in terms of the job creation. So the jobs that is happening now, which is supposed to be the jobs of tomorrow, we are looking at cloud computing. We're looking at content creation, data, artificial intelligence, engineering, marketing, people and culture, product development, as well as sales and marketing, right? So, okay, when you talk about sales, I mean, we are not talking the conventional types of sales, because nowadays, even if you are an engineer, you can go into the finance sector, okay? You can also go into the GBS or global shared services in the customer service area and all that, whereby they hire those employees with a technical background to support their customers overseas. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities out there, right? Okay, so you don't have to be specific. Like if you're an engineer, you just want to go into the engineering field. That's not the way anymore nowadays. Okay. So in terms of the skill, of course, when you have a new job that has been created, you need to have a new skill that you need to acquire, right? So this is basically the increasingly important skill that you need to have. Number one is on the critical thinking and analysis, right? You also need to have problem solving, self-management, and of course, technology use and development, certain competency in that, right? Okay. Okay, next. Are we good so far? Give me some thumbs. Okay, cool. Yeah, because I'm like talking alone here. Okay, need to interact with human. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Okay, so basically, we in Telencop, we also do our own market research or market studies lah. We have what we call the COL or the Critical Occupation List. This is an annual report that we run across 18 sectors in Malaysia. So what we do, in this report, we try to identify what are the highly sought after positions, in the market, and what are the most difficult position to get in the market. So this is our intention when we run this report. Okay, so we work closely with our partners Ilmiah under the Ministry of Human Resource and all that, right? So yeah, as I mentioned, we do this on annual basis. And then what we found out is that these are the occupation or the position that we appeared in every COL report that we do every year. Surprisingly, meaning that these are all the positions that are in demand in the market. Okay, so let's take a look by sector. All right. So for the engineering and manufacturing sectors, these are the positions that will be triggered by the employer in the report every year. So the position are the electrical engineers, industry and production engineers, ME, mechanical engineers, manufacturing profession, and also mechanical engineering technicians. Okay. So under the sector of data, finance, and accounting, so there is shortage or maybe difficult to find mathematicians, actuaries, statisticians, accountant, and also auditors, financial analysts. All right. Okay. And for the information technology sectors, there is a shortage or maybe hard to fill position for system analysts, software developers, computer networks, professionals, application programmers, right? Okay. And then for the managerial position, we are looking at finance manager. Surprisingly, we don't have enough finance manager or shortage, right? And then business services manager, policy and planning manager, of course, information and communication technology managers, IT. Okay. And then for the science sector, we do not have enough geologists and also geophysicists. All right. So yeah, interesting figure to know. Okay. Right. And as for the market insight, this is our market finding as of January 2021 lah. It is quite recent, first half of it, right? So industries that are actively hiring graduates, fresh graduates in this case, are the information technology services, IT, right? And then financial services, the oil and gas, surprisingly, oil and gas, they are also intensively hiring, right? Okay, and then construction. So I suppose maybe also because of the we are no longer depending on certain foreign, workers and all that. Perhaps that's the reason why the construction is actively hiring, right? Of course, the education management is also actively hiring graduates and the electrical and electronics. The electrical and electronic, basically those in the semiconductors, those that are producing chips and all that to support the digital transformation in the country, right? Okay, as for the major challenges in hiring, this is according to the employers. So they are facing major challenges in hiring because there is lack of access to the targeted talent pool, right? So, and there is also lack of available candidate with employability essential skills, the competency, right? And then, of course, they also find it, they couldn't find available candidates with the right technical skill. These are the challenges that our employers are, quoting to us, okay? Lack of effort in commercial awareness and also employers branding. This is more for the employers or for the organization itself, meaning that they do not do a lot of branding, positioning themselves in the market, commercial awareness, so that employees do not know or the job seekers do not know that they even existed. So this is one of the things that the companies need to do, all right? Okay. And of course, the inability to pay competitive salary as per market standard. So this is some of the major challenges also because, of course, besides job satisfaction, so salary is also very important, monetary, what you call packages that's being offered to the candidate themselves. So this is also quite competitive lah. If they do not pay good, then they might lose out to those industries they're paying good salary to the job seekers, right? So the other insight that we have captured is on the required skill. So this is the most required skill in the market right now, which is the analytical thinking and innovation, communication, and also interpersonal. This is very important, the interpersonal skill. You get to see more of this later, right? So active learning and learning strategies. Okay, this is also another required skill. So they want you to be more creative. Of course, creativity, originality, and also initiative. I know nowadays, especially the current generation, you guys are more creative because I have kids who are also within the same age of yours, and they're very creative also in terms of voicing out their ideas and so on, right? And of course, the other skill is on the complex problem solving. This is very important, right? And in terms of the technical skills that are in demand would be the ABC or artificial intelligence, BDA, and of course, cloud computing. So the other technical skill would be on the legal and compliances, finance, analytical skills, research for forecasting, data mining, right? And of course, the Python language, right? So yeah, this is basically the fastest growing skill. Okay. So there's some remarks, note and question in the chat box. Maybe later after the session, I try to address this. Yeah. Okay. Next. So, how is the current scenario in our graduate employability? Right. So right now we have about 21 public universities in Malaysia. We have 38 private sectors or universities. Okay. We have 34 polytechnics and metro polytechnics, and about 251 colleges and private institutions. Okay. What does that mean? What does the number mean? So that means every year we churn out about 290,000 students that graduates annually, close to 300,000. Okay. So our survey has shown that 1 in 5 of these fresh graduates will remain unemployed within the 6 months after graduation. There's a lot of reasons. Maybe some they do not want to be employed with an employer. They prefer to do their own business, entrepreneur, or gig economy, is what I've mentioned earlier, right? So there's a lot of reasons there, right? But this is the fact, besides competing among the graduate themselves, you also need to compete with those that have been retrenched. Remember earlier I mentioned that those people that have lost their job and all that. So there's a lot of competition out there, right? That could also be the contributing factor of why this graduate can't find employment within the next 6 months, right, after graduation. Okay. So and then 25% out of these are the degree holders, people like you guys. These are the numbers is one of those highest in terms of the unemployment rate, right? Okay. Let's take a look at our graduate employability or kebolehpasaran of our graduan. Okay. So we were doing quite well actually, from 2017, our numbers has increased from 79 to 80% in 2018. And then we did very well in 2019 at 86.2%, meaning that, there's a lot of our graduates that have been employed, in the sectors and all that, right? So progressing very well, this as per graph. But then when the pandemic hit us in early 2020, right, the number has started to decline, So we are declining at 84.4%. So yeah, can't say much, in terms of 2021 numbers, but I foresee that it's not going to increase that much, or maybe it's gonna decline further, right? We have not gotten the number, the years for 2021 yet, right? Okay, next. So another scenario of graduate employability. This is the labour force market in Malaysia for first half of 2021. As you can see, our unemployment rate starting from January, we are at the range of 4.9 and 4.7, 4.8, right? So I don't see that we're going to, get out from this rate as yet, right? But anyway, hopefully, like I said we are seeing some lights at the end of the tunnel, right? So the major challenges for the first half of this year is because of the pandemic continues to spike, with the number of cases and all that, right? And then the government has also imposed a policy on the movement control, right? We have to do a very lengthy process of the MCO control and all that, right? And then moreover, the appetite from the industries on recruitment is also stagnant and declining, because some industry choose the mode to wait and see, because of the uncertainties. So they are not hiring, so yeah. Hence, that reflected in the unemployment rate. Okay. And some industries, they also adapt into the new norm and adjusting to the new trend of recruitment. Basically, they hire freelancers or also virtual and remote working, right? So these are all, like I said, will affect the unemployment rate for us. Okay. Next. Right. So basically, what the government is doing to address some of these issues in terms of our graduate employability agenda. So in this, we collaborate a lot with Ministry of Human Resources, Ministry of Education, and also Ministry of Youth and Sports, right? I'm not going to go much into the programs, the MyNext, SIP, and all that, because I already explained that in my previous slide, right? So, however, some data for your information. As for MyNext data, we have about 140,000, graduates who have registered or who have done their online self-awareness in this. Okay, so it's a good database platform for us, All right, and for SIP, right, currently we have already endorsed 700 companies since our inception in 2011, right, on this SIP program. So, and we have secured about 90,000 internship placement across Malaysia. So, yeah, check this out, especially those who wish to do internship. Okay. And then for the IAC or the Industry Academic Collaboration, we have facilitated about 20 companies and also with 20 institutions across Malaysia. Okay, maybe we can also explore something with SENTRAL college, right? So just to see what kind of industry that fit you. Okay. So next. Right. Another scenario on the graduate employability. So this talent bank employer, they have conducted a survey in 2020, okay? And then their findings are that majority employers considered our local fresh graduate to be not immediately ready to take on career challenges. This is not what I say, this is from the survey, okay? Right? So just said that our local graduate are just not industry ready, right? So, and then I think there's another survey that has been conducted by the MOE or Ministry of Education, right? So, and these are the findings. The main reasons of unemployment among graduates are due to the graduates lack the skill, the knowledge, and attitude that employers are looking for. Do you agree with me? Right. Okay. Agree? Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, this is from the market survey. This is not. These are the data, and normally the data, we can't do much because the data speaks for itself. You see, right? So, okay. So, what are the competency or the skills that employers are looking for? Okay, employers are looking for these specific skills from our graduates: problem solving, information technology, teamwork, critical thinking, continuous learning, communication, professional ethics, and also entrepreneurship. As you can see, out of these 9 competency or skills, I think most of them are more on, and also moral. Most of them are more on what you call interpersonal skills or competencies, right? Interesting, okay. And apart from that, employers are also looking into some specific skill with for from the candidates, right? And they are the leadership skills, career management skills, meaning that you know what you want to do, you have a vision, and also intercultural interaction, right? So these are all the emphasized skill apart from the specific skill that the employees are looking for, right? So do you think you have all the skills? Okay, I think we're gonna take a look at the another reason, top reason for fresh graduate unemployed. This is a research done by Kazana Research Institute in 2018, which I think that would still be relevant for us nowadays, right? So yeah, one reason is on the skill mismatch. There's always a mismatch. Uh, from our experience, this is because of the what you call the dynamic in the industry itself. So meaning that the technology, the work that's happening in the industry is quite dynamic. It's very fast and challenging. And then and as for the institution or education, they might not have the expertise or exposure to catch up with what the industry is doing lah. So hence there is a mismatch in terms of our graduate that are being produced to the industries, right? And then the other reason is on the low take up for STEM. Okay, so the low take up for STEM, students are not interested or attractive enough to take up the science and technology and also mathematics studies. So there's been a decreasing number, and as you know, government is doing a lot of effort, and initiative to try to boost, the students to enroll in STEM program at an early stage. And the other reason is on the low participation in TVET or technical vocational, engineering. Technical vocational technologies, right? So basically, remember, we used to have during my days we used to have this vocational school, versus the mainstream, and back then, none of us would like to go into the vocational because this is like for those who can't do well or perform in their academy, and they will go into vocational, which is skill. But nowadays, the world is changing. The world is reversing. Industries are looking more into those that have the skill, the hands-on, right? In terms of their studies. So right. So because of that, like I said, the government is also trying to promote a lot of intervention and also initiative to encourage our students to take up TVET, which is on job skill trainings, and also vocational, right? So the job search and recruitment mismatch, and also this lack of entrepreneurship skills, right? So these are the top reason for fresh graduate that are unemployed or they're having difficulties to find a job as per Kazana Research Institute studies. Okay. And then, this is the top 5 most important skill for employers globally, right? So we also comparing ourselves globally, where we are in the market. So we are not far off, right? So basically, what the global employers are saying, they're looking at problem-solving skill, teamwork, communication, adaptability, and of course, interpersonal skill. This is almost aligned to what we have, the findings in our, local talent from the Ministry of Education and also talent bank employees. All right. So, having heard all this, right? At this juncture, do you know who you are? What you want to do? Where do you want to go? Do you think you have all the competencies, the skill set, that the employees are looking for? Give me thumbs up if you already know what you want to do in your life. Oh, great. Yeah. Good. Yes. Good. Yeah. I like the, the positivity, right? Okay. So yeah, basically you need to know who you are, what you want to do, whether you have the right expertise. So next, we're going to take at some guideline. This is just a guideline in order for you to chart your own career roadmap, right? Okay. So first of all, you need to ask yourself, what is your competitive edge? How many of you knows what is competitive edge? Can you give me some example in the chat box? What is your competitive edge? So basically, competitive edge here means how do you stay above the curve, meaning that what differentiates you from the rest of the graduates out there, right? What makes you special to the employers so that the employers can look at you and willing to hire you? What are the advantages that you have? Okay.
Sorry, Farah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Alright?
it's really an interesting, but we have 3 minutes to go with this
Oh,
session.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Okay. Sorry. All right. Yeah, I'll go very fast. So, right. So what are the technical competencies that you have? You need to ask this question. So if you are into finance example, so maybe you need to have a very strong footing in Excel, advanced, maybe something like that, right? So these are all technical competencies. And then what are the soft skills that you have or you don't have? Remember earlier I was talking about competency, the soft skills and all that. So you need to ask yourself all these questions, right? And then the other one, Azura, okay, who do you know in your industries and who knows you? This is about networking. It's very important, that you know who are the industries and who do you know in your industry. For example, if you're studying certain courses, do you know your industries very well, right? Again, and what are the competitive edge that is highly appreciated or most sought after in your industry? And what are the technical competency required by your industry? This one memang you have to do your own research and marketing. I mean, your own research to find out further, right? And what are the soft skills required by most by your industry? And then who are the key players in your industry? Who are the key people in your industry who can connect you to them? So there's also elements of networking inside here, right? So make full use of your social media, have your LinkedIn accounts, make sure that you are connected to the important people, in the LinkedIn account and all that, right? So recently I heard there are about 100,000 in Malaysia alone of CEOs and also founder that have a LinkedIn account. So this will be a good opportunity for you, right? Okay, next. Oh, this is the ready supporting instrument for you. Basically, what you can do, to equip yourself with all the competencies. Okay, so we have the My Step program. This is a training and short-term placement in the public sector as well as government-linked companies, GLCs. So under the HRD Corp, we also have the Place and Trade. This is an initiative to source and provide employment for Malaysian, especially for the graduate, the return workers, and also the school leavers. We also have the e-latte. You can check out their website, HRD Corp, right? And we also have the Protege, right? So this is for those who are interested to do entrepreneur training and marketplace training, right? And for MDEC, those who like digital platform, we have the digital business services and also the digital tech apprenticeship, DTA, right? And for those who are interested in more on innovation and research, we have MAGIC. This is an agency under the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. And we also have Cradle. This is also a government agencies that provide an early stage funding to those who wants to, venture into innovation and also entrepreneurs, right? And next, all right, under the Ministry of Higher Education, we also have the Grade or Graduates Research Hub for Employment and Training. Ini adalah portal sentik pada graduan untuk mendapatkan maklumat peluang kerjaya, your programs and what are the tips to allow you to be more marketable or employable. Okay, you can enroll in a KPT CAP and all that. So, and those of you who wish to do entrepreneurship, right? So we also have the entrepreneurship and SME development programs. So do check this out, right? And last but not least, okay, this is My Future Jobs. This is a portal, that developed by Sosto for you to register and also try to find the job matching inside there. So this is quite an active platform. There's a lot of, almost every day, there's always an advertisement on job posting in the website. Okay, do check this out. Of course, the list is not exhausted, right? We also have JobStreet and also other means of recruiter out there. All right. Okay, so yeah, hopefully, you guys have benefit from this session. And my key takeaway is that do stay up to date most of the time and knows what's going on in the market, right? And continue to networking, know who are your industries, right? And then try to empower your career and your roadmap, take charge of your career. Okay, so all right, thank you. That's all. Do reach out to us anytime for more information. Back to you, Yehong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Puan Nor, for enlightening and entertaining us with such an interesting topic. And now I would like to invite our moderator, Kim Sing, to carry out the Q&A session. Heading over to you, Kim Sing.
Thank you, Yehong, and thank you very much, Puan Nor, for your amazing presentation on strategy initiatives and market insight. I believe all the participants enjoyed and gained a lot of new knowledge from your sharing. Now, let us move on to our Q&A session. Puan Nor, we got the first question from Dr. Chong. She is interested to know more on talent mobility under Trust 1 and Trust 2. Perhaps could you explain more on the returning expert program and also the Malaysia Expatriate program? Is there any specific skills or knowledge required?
Okay, the first question is on talent mobility, right?
Yes.
Talent mobility. Second is on the returning expert program, REP.
REP and also the My Expatriate.
Oh, my expert. Okay, all right. So yeah, I have my colleague here, Azura, to support me on this. So okay, I will go on the telemobility, and then perhaps Azura can help me on the REP and also the My expert. Okay. So yeah, for the talent mobility, like what I mentioned just now, we have this My ASEAN internship program. So basically, this is the objective for us to give exposure to our interns and build their career, their character, and also leadership. So under this program, companies who registered with us under this My ASEAN internship, they can send the interns. The interns can be from any institution, even from Central College and all that. So they can send this intern to their entities in any of the ASEAN countries, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, and all that, right? So they can send the intern there, and then what we do in Telencop, we sponsor or their flight ticket outbound, and also we facilitate their visa application, right? And then likewise, if the company from any of the ASEAN countries and they wish to send their intern here to Malaysia, we have to facilitate their visa application, right? So yeah, this is quite a interesting program that we're doing. But of course now with the COVID and the travel ban restriction. So we kind of like put this program on hold, but it is still there, you know. Perhaps next year when things are good, you know, better, we can kind of like reactivate back this program lah. So something that you might want to explore. Okay. All right.
Okay. I would like to add, under the mobility program, now we have an online a virtual program called MyPal. So we can still have communication remotely if there is any candidate would like to participate under the exchange program.
Right.
Yeah, we can furnish it. For returning expert program, this is our initial program that Telencop was established, where we encourage Malaysians who reside overseas with special talents to come back and contribute to Malaysian economy. So the government has given lucrative benefits, like I mean we have a deck on that. So whoever that the person must still be a Malaysian Malaysian citizen residing overseas, and if they would like to join this program, they need to register while they are still residing overseas, and there is a body that will review the application, and if there is any company that is in need of their specialties, expertise, then we can arrange for them to come back to Malaysia. So that is under the returning expert program. So the expert is Malaysian that are residing overseas, and we need them to come back to support Malaysian economy. So this is to address the brain drain problem. For my expat service center is our under Telencop. What my expat center do is to facilitate the global talent, foreign talent. So if there are companies in Malaysia that need to hire foreign not foreign workers, these are expatriate. They are white collar experts to come to Malaysia. My expat will facilitate their visa, work permit, and so on and so forth. Good news, we will open our My Expat Center in the northern region, which will be located in one precinct building in Bayan Baru.
Yeah, early this year. Yes.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Puan Noh and Miss Azura, for your explanation. And moving on to the next question, we got Miss Nell. She asked whether do you have any thoughts on any kind of jobs or activities which might be replaced with 3D printing?
Which might be replaced with any job. I think this is more on those digital, right? Digital sectors and all that. So, okay, what we can do, okay, never mind, because in Telencop, we have a few, what you call assigned, we call them sector leaders. Like myself and Azura, we are in charge of those E&E sectors and also health sector. But we have a team that is leading the digital ICT, industries and all that. So what we can do, I can connect you to that the lead for that sector. So perhaps she can be able to give you more information about what are the opportunities out there for that particular sector. Would that be okay?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Puan Noh, again for
Sure.
sharing your answer. And moving on to the third question, we got a question from Miss Anis. She asked whether could you share any thoughts on the job market for undergraduate students, because during these trying times, some students may have doubts to continue their degree study after completing diploma due to financial concerns. So what is your opinion on this? Should they consider continuing their study now? And think about study later, or they can leverage their time to focus on their study and look for part-time jobs while studying.
Meaning that when she has completed her diploma,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And then after that, she's kind of like still do not know what she want to do, whether she want to continue the studies and all that. Actually, my personal thought lah. I mean, maybe Azura can also give her input on this. My personal thought is it actually it depends on your needs lah. It depends on what you want to do and what your needs and also the surrounding, right? If of course, you know, we would like to encourage our students. If you have completed your diploma, right, you should be pursuing your degree and all that. But that degree is not all. I mean, you know, there's more to it, right? So we're talking about the skill that you will acquire. You know, once you get a job, right? So sometimes a degree doesn't really, not to say that doesn't really mean anything, but is who you are, you know, what kind of value that you bring to organization that matters, you see. So even if you have a diploma, right, but if you can think, you know, wisely, and you have all those competency that I mentioned earlier, you know, like problem solving, you know, and all that communication skills, so yeah, you can still excel, right? So it depends on what you want to do, you know, and also the situation. Sometimes you might have difficulties in terms of the, you know, family matters or financial matters, right? So yeah, again, you know, it is up to individual, I would say. Yeah, Azura, go ahead.
I would like to add, for those who you know, financially have the financial to further for the degree, it would be an ideal. But if money is the concern, don't worry, because there are plenty of opportunities for diploma holders in the market out there. And companies are also embarking on the upskilling and reskilling for their new hires. So
Yes.
we have also ministries that have the funding to assist companies to upskill the new hires. So
Right.
if the opportunity arises later, you may continue to pursue your degree. But if right now the need to find a job, no worries. There are plenty of jobs for diploma holders out there at the
Yes,
moment. Yes.
agree. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Puano and Ms. Azura, for your valuable insights. Due to time constraints, maybe can we have last question from Dr. Chong? She asked, from the demand insights, she can see more in the area of science and IT. So do you think for those in the business or social science areas should also need to equip themselves with knowledge and skill in science and technology for better career opportunity?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's no harm. I mean, you know, for them, even though they study business or social sciences, right? Yeah, I mean, there's no harm to upskill themselves, no, or in technologies or technical skills, right? So that will be like a value added and more marketable in the market, right? Like I mentioned just now, I mean, you know, in my presentation, if you have a degree in engineering, doesn't mean that you're going to be an engineer. You can work as a, you know, in the GBS, Global Shared Services sector, to become a back-end support, right? So yeah, customer service and all that. So even in finance, right? Finance industries are hiring a lot of engineers, right? Because of the technical and all that. So yeah, nowadays is very weird. I mean, like, you don't have to be like a specific, you know, if you graduate in business, you know, you have to stay in business, but you can do a lot of wonders out there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I would strongly encourage that.
I would like to add also that for those who are non-technical background, we also have a partner with us called Beyond 4. They do a lot of talent acceleration. If you are in a non-technical background, you can be retrained to be reskilled to have ICT and information technology skill and competency. So I think they have a program about 3 to 4 months They have partners in UK, US, and India. So if you would like to join this kind of program, we encourage you to contact us so that we can connect you with them. So if you are non-technical or engineering background, you can still be marketable. You can do
Yes.
something.
Yes. Yeah. True. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Pono and Miss Azura, for sharing your
Okay.
perspective.
Thank you.
Well, I
Thanks
guess
for
that
having
is
us.
all. Yeah. Thank you again, Pono and Miss Azura, for all your answers. And I will pass back the session to Yee-Hong, sorry. Following on to you, Yee-Hong.
Thank you, Kim Sing, and we appreciate all those questions that have been brought up by our audiences. And thank you once again to Puan No and Puan Azura for your feedback and sharing on Telencop strategies, initiatives, and market insights. And dear participants, please fill up the feedback form for these sessions, which is the first plenary session with the link shown in the chat box, or you may scan the QR code in the slides. And now we shall take a break before we proceed with the second session. And please don't forget to fill up the feedback form to provide us with your remarks and stand a chance to win the lucky draw. Thank you everyone, and we shall see you at 10:25 later.
Okay, thank you. Can we leave?
Yeah.
Hi Puan No and Puan Azura, you may leave now, but please kindly to join us for the open forum later.
Okay, sure.
Thank
What
you.
time is the open forum? Sorry.
It should be. Wait a minute, yeah, I confirm again to you. It should be around 3 o'clock.
Okay, great. Yes,
Yes.
we shall join. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank
Thank you. Bye. Thanks.
Bye. it's now 10:25. I hope all the participants are back with us. We shall proceed with our second session. I'd like to welcome our second speakers of the day, Mr. Tan Wei Chuan. Mr. Tan is the Executive Director of Deloitte Malaysia's tax practice based in Penang office. With over 15 years of tax experience in Malaysia, he has extensive experience in corporation compliance matters, tax planning, tax due diligence, tax audit, transfer pricing, and indirect taxes including GST implementation. He has also advised on personal tax planning and compliance matters as well as immigration solution for international assignees under Global Employers Services service line. Mr. Tan Wei Chuan graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce from La Trobe University, Melbourne, Australia. He is a Chartered Accountant of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants MIA, a member of the CPA Australia, and also a member of the Chartered Tax Institute of Malaysia. Here to discuss tax that matters in today's economy. Please welcome Mr. Tan Wei Chuan. Over to you, Mr. Tan.
Thanks, Yihong. Everyone can see my slides.
Yes, we can see your slides, sir.
Okay, thanks, Yihong. So good morning, everyone. And I hope that everyone is keeping well during this pandemic. So first of all, before I start my presentation, I would like to thank you, Central College, for inviting me to participate as a guest speaker for today's symposium. So I also want to congratulate Central College for successfully organizing this symposium. Despite the disruptions of this pandemic, you still managed to have a lot of participants for this symposium. So as introduced, I'm from tax background, so I never go to commercial. All the time, my career path, I have been in tax professions. Since graduated from La Trobe University, I joined Deloitte. Then I actually left Deloitte went to KL to join a medium-sized firm. Then I come back to Deloitte. So it's like a journey. So like you say, what is the today title? Tax that matters in today's economy. So why we think that tax is very important? As you know, tax is the primary source of our government revenue, and our government need the revenue to develop our country. So that tax is the only source that they have primarily, right? So you see, tax in the today world keep changing, and as a tax consultant, we are like a middleman. We are agents to the tax authority. We try to combat tax evasions, try to improve tax compliance, and at the same time, we are advisor to the taxpayer, help them to save tax. And of course, we don't encourage, we don't to do tax evasions, but let them understand the importance of paying tax and of course, paying the fair shares of tax. So today's sharing, basically what will I cover? Oh, sorry, I can't move my slides. Okay, so as you see, today contains the agenda that I have for today's presentation. I will share with you, right? So as a tax professions, as a career, there's various aspects that you need to be aware of. First, of course, I think many of us would think that tax is only cover corporate tax, individual tax, but in fact, tax is more wider than that. There's a lot of area actually is relations to tax. So from there, that I will let you understand as a tax profession, what with the career milestone, what with the expectations as a tax grad, when you want to join a tax professions, what we expect from you, and of course, when you join a tax professions, what you can expect from us. Then, of course, I will discuss a lot of things like what kind of attributes that you can have. Yeah, so of course, then from there, then you can decide, you can have more understanding, right? To be a tax professions, right? What will your life going to be in the future? Then, of course, because like I say, tax is very wide, I will also share some high level of tax knowledge about business taxations and individual tax. That's not only, because I can't cover everything. A lot of things actually is quite technical, but I just want to let you understand, right, what kind of Malaysian tax system that we have. But majority, fall under the company tax and the individual tax. And of course, I will give you some reasons tax updates where I think it's more important that everyone need to know, right? So as you can see, what is tax, right? You can see from the slides, basically we cover 9 types of tax services, but there's another one actually we created recently in this year where we call it a tax management consultant. So that's the number 10, right? So it's not shown here. So basically you can see from here is a business tax. This is what I say. This is like a business, a corporate tax. So what we do is like we prepare computations, then we help the client submit the tax return. Then of course audit and investigations is because under the current tax system, we are under the self-assessment system, right? You submit the tax return yourself, then you pay the tax yourself, right? So the tax authority not really checking on the tax return, but rather they will do a tax audit eventually after the submissions of your tax return. So during the tax audit, they will actually request for a lot of documents, then check and see whether is there any audit finding. Then they will go through a negotiations, then they will see come out a final assessment whether you're really in compliance or you're actually in default on reporting of your tax return and you need to pay additional tax plus a penalty. Then of course under tax, we also cover international tax. That's because like you know, Penang is the Silicon Valley of the East. There's a lot of MNC here. So of course there's a lot of restructuring that involve of a lot of tax issue. So that this is the area that actually will advise them how to mitigate the tax risk, right? So of course they also have a merger and acquisition. That's because when one company want to buy another company, want to merge the business, then we have to, from tax perspective, we have to quantify what will the potential tax exposure so that when the buyer buy the company, they don't have the tax liability to bear in the future. So of course, we also involve in grant and incentive, then transfer pricing. Yeah, transfer pricing is a very hot topic now. I'm not sure you heard about this, but this is the area that our tax authority is looking at this moment. Transfer pricing basically is talking about intercompany transactions, whether they are dealing at an arm's length principle, right? So whether they are the selling price that they do, whether it's at a market value, a market pricing. So because you see transfer pricing, a lot of this issue basically arises because, you know, like Google, like Starbucks, actually they have set up company in the tax haven country in the past. So whatever profit they just ship there, they don't profit. They don't pay tax on the profits that they earn. So this is actually a transfer pricing issue. So internationally, actually, not only Malaysia, but worldwide, we are actually looking at this transfer pricing issue, right? So indirect tax, we are talking about the custom matters, right? Sales tax, service tax, and excise duty. Then we have global employer services. This is basically is like individual tax. Yeah, but then we actually cover more than that. We are not only helping expats or local individual filing their tax return, but actually we also involved in the immigration issue. Yeah, whether they need to apply for work permit or professional visit pass, this kind of matters. Then the ninth is the business process solutions. This is actually very wide, other more than the tax that we have. So this is also include a secretarial services, payroll. Yeah, there's more than that. Yeah, so then the number 10 that is not showing here that I mentioned earlier, TMC, tax management consulting. That is basically we help our client to improve their tax operational internally, because as we can see, a lot of issues coming up because of their own internal problem, right? The accounting system, whether they manage to keep their records properly and manage to provide the information accurately for us to help them to prepare the tax return. So basically you can see that tax is actually wide, not only corporate tax and individual tax, but as you can see, there's more than that, right? So as a tax profession, it's not easy, right? So of course, in every organization, we have a hierarchy. So what will be the career milestone in the tax professions? It covers basically about 9 levels, right? So when after graduations, you join tax professions, you start as tax assistant, okay? The journey is not easy. As you can see, it's like a rock climbing activities, right? You certain times it's a flat, okay? It's a smooth sailing. But when you're up to certain level, there's obstacle you need to climb over because you change the role, there's a certain expectations and the certain roles, duties that will be changed. So when start with the tax assistant, basically, there's not much expectation. Basically, we know that you are fresh, you come in the tax professions, you want to learn, right? To gain knowledge. So basically, it's easy. For the first 2 years, probably the max, then you will be promoted to a tax senior. Then from there, right, your role change, right? You're not only preparing the tax computations, but there's more that you will deal with the client, right? Give a simple advice. Then probably in 1 or 2 years, then you will probably be promoted, climb up to the next level, tax supervisor, right? So if you can see, when you become a tax supervisor, expectations getting higher. So you can see that if you want to go to the next level, which is assistant manager or manager, right? So the role will be totally different change because not only that you are only doing groundwork, but that you need to manage not only the work, the client, but you need to manage your staff, right? Because in the tax industry, a lot of works we have deadline, right? Tax submission deadline, client expectations, client deadline. So you have to manage a lot of things, right? So from there, probably a few years, then you equip yourself with all the skills required, with the knowledge that you need, then you will become a senior manager. So become the senior manager and associate director basically is, the role basically is almost the change, almost the same, right? But when become an associate director, to become a director, you can see that is the most difficult part in your career life in the tax professions. Because in the director role, not only that you need to do whatever the senior manager need to do, managing, looking after the client, looking after the staff, but you have to start to build the capability to do business, right? To do business development, right? So from the jobs that you have, you need to see what kind of other engagement, other business opportunity that you can get from your client, right? So then only that we will see if you have that kind of capability, that kind of leadership, then only you can become the next level directors and become a partner. But the journey is not end there, right? So in the tax professions, you can see that maybe you can be specialized in one area, corporate tax, transfer pricing. But because of the requirement, sometimes, especially like if like me, I'm in the Penang office, where basically we have to do everything. We are not really specializing in one area. So when you have client requirement, client demand on other services, then you need to know, to understand the tax aspects from the other areas other than what you have specialized in, right? So that you have to venture, right? To understand, to gain the knowledge on that different aspects of tax services. Yeah, so this is basically the career milestone that you have in the tax profession. So if you want to do tax, what I mentioned just now basically is in the accounting firm, right? So what we do when first graduated, a lot of accounting students, what they think that is, I want to join audit firm. So as a stepping stone, maybe for 3 years, that I gain the knowledge there, that I get the certifications, I become an MIA member. Yeah, so then I can venture into other area, right? So if at first step you join accounting firm, then what other area, eventually if you think that I don't want to be in the professional firm, which area that I can venture into, right? So actually you can go to public sector, like income tax department, or you can go to custom department. Yeah, so public sector, or you become a lecturer. If you are in the tax professions, in a professional firm, also you can do a part-time. You can become a lecturer, right? Teach in Central College or any other areas that you want to be, right? So of course, if you are more interesting, is you can become a tax lawyer. You join a law firm, right? So you are only specializing because law also there's there's a lot of area, right? Civil law, right? Company law. So tax, and so you can become the tax lawyer. So of course that actually works together with accounting firm. Then of course the last one is an in-house advisor. There's a lot of actually MNC nowadays set up their own department in their company that they're actually managing their tax affair. So basically this is fall under the GBS, as you heard from Puan Asma just now. Penang actually now try to focus on GBS, the Global Business Solutions, Global Service Center, that actually not only doing accounting work, but they're doing a lot of different types of advisory all for their subsidiary companies all over the world. So what you need to know is not only the Malaysian matters, but others country tax matters, right? So why we want to choose tax as a profession? There's a lot of benefit, but of course, I think if you think about that at a point, maybe there's a lot of people sharing with you. Life in professional is very tough and challenging, right? There's no work-life balance. Maybe if you're an auditor or you're a tax consultant, right? So you maybe have to work 24 hours a day or 7 days a week because there's a lot of work. You need to serve a lot of clients, right? So, and there's a lot of deadline, right? But then, I mean, if in terms of, if you look at the bright side, there's a lot of benefit if you're in the professional services. You see, especially during this pandemic, as you can see, manufacturing company, their operations affected because due to the lockdown, they have to stop the operations, right? Tourism, they can't do any activities. But for tax and auditor, it's business as usual. You still have to do their accounting. You still have to do the audit. You still have to submit tax return, right? Of course, there will be an extension of the tax deadline, but that never stops. You still have the jobs to do, right? So the first thing we are talking about the dynamic career is because why? Because you have the opportunity to grow all the time. Like I mentioned earlier, tax is changing all the years, right? So it's actually evolving globally, constantly, and every year, anytime, right? So you will face the new challenges. There's a new changes that you need to keep update yourself and to grow, to improve yourself. So that's why what I can see that in this career, there's actually a performance, there's a growth, right? Rather than it's a stagnant career, right? Then, of course, it's a continuous demand. Like I explained earlier, the same thing, right? So it's a complexity to keep changing, right? So your client will come back to you when there's a changes, how they deal with it, whether there's any implications to them. So you need to, master the changes, let them understand, then only that we can continue the jobs. Then, of course, we are helping client in compliance and, of course, helping them in the tax saving. But tax saving is not so easy, right? A lot of people thinking that, when I want to save tax, what should I do? So they only, when the transactions happen or the financials already finalized, they come and ask, from here, what I can save from there. So actually, it's a wrong concept, right? So a lot of people thinking that, but to us, if you want to do tax saving, tax planning, it should be from the beginning rather than when the end, only you are thinking about the tax planning. Yeah, so then this is the things, the benefit that actually we can help our client. One thing, help client, the other thing also we can help the tax authority, right? So then the other one is a global mobility opportunities, right? Tax is needed everywhere, every country, right? So if you have this tax knowledge, actually you can work anywhere, not only in Malaysia, but you can work in Singapore, even in US. Give one example that I can give to you, transfer pricing. So you heard about transfer pricing. Basically, we are actually follow an international standard guideline. Yeah, so every country follow the same. What we call is an OECD guideline. So if you master that, you specialize in this area, you have that kind of knowledge. Basically, you want to go anywhere to work, no issue at all, right? So if you want to work in tax professions, what would be the expectation from you and what you can expect from there? Okay, so just now, Puan Asma talking about the talent skill, right? So for all the industry, basically, that's almost the same. It's in line, what we are looking for, right? So of course, when you have outstanding academic achievement, then that will be the first impressions, the first thing that we are looking at. But we are not only looking at a bookmarks talent, right? Because if you have very good result in your exam, but it doesn't mean that you can work well in your career, right? So what we are looking at is many other interpersonal skills. You have to have the strong passion and commitment in tax, if you want tax as your career. Because why? As I say, it's very tough and challenging. If you don't have the interest, you don't have the enthusiasm, you don't have the passion, you don't have the commitment, you won't do well, right? You just stay in, 9 o'clock, go to the office, 5 o'clock after work, you just leave the office. Then you will never do well, right, in the tax professions. So other than that, there are many other expectations from that. So you must be actively participate in the curriculum activities, right? So in the tax profession, I mean, in the professional firm, actually we have this inter-firms sports activity. Yeah, so we all come together and mix around so you can expand your network, make friends from there. Then of course you can see that from there, actually you can build your interpersonal skill, then of course your commitment, right? And your communication skill with others. Then from there, when you want to build your career, then what your expectation from there? Of course, salary is the first thing, right? When you join a career. What I can say is professional firm, of course, the salary paid is quite decent for recent years. But then if you want to compare to some other industry, of course, it may not be so lucrative, right? So high as compared to commercial, right? But then I would say that it's good enough for you. And if you go through a career path, when you become a manager, I believe that, as I can see based on my experience, the salary paid actually is quite par, no matter in what industry. So actually it's a good career to be with. Yeah, so as you see, you have a career progression, it keep going, right? 9 levels, the ladders for you to come up. Then of course you have a world-class experience. If you join a professional firm like a Big Four, Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, so you have the opportunities, go outside to see a lot of things. Yeah, so of course job security, you don't, afraid like during pandemic, there's a job retrenchment. In the commercial, that's very common. But in professional, especially in Malaysia, I don't see a retrenchment in the professional firm. So there's a job security, right? And of course, there's a lot of opportunities. So there's a lot of expectation there that I can't share everything, right? So once you join, then you will experience that and you will know. Yeah, so there's a lot of benefit to become a tax consultant. So in the professional firm like tax, actually you need to learn throughout the journey, even when you become a partner. So when you first started the career, it's a period for you to adapt to the environment, right? The culture of the firm, the way how we work. Then at the same time, you start to learn. So take probably first or 2 years during that stage. Then after that, when you have familiarized with the things that you do, then you start to get the momentum, right? You run faster, right? You gain a lot of knowledge from that. Then slowly that you feel that it's a fun of learning. Then after that, it's become a knowledge to you that you can serve a lot of clients. But this learning is a continual journey. You will never stop there. Like I mentioned earlier, the same thing, right? So you specialize in one area, but that will be never end, right? So if there's a requirement that you need to gain other tax knowledge, some other area, that you have to go through the same journey again, right? Start from the adaptation, momentum, fun learning, that eventually become knowledge. Yeah, so you see tax, let's say it's a tax, there is a 9 areas that you want to venture. So they will never end. You will just continue, right? So this is how we say that when you in the professional firm, in the audit or in the tax, that is the growth that you can get from there, the opportunities and the benefit, okay? So what we are looking at here, not only that, okay, you can see a lot of, this probably is the attributes for a professional to have, but I especially call out 3 things, right? The first thing, think differently, right? So of course, whatever you study from the book, you can advise your client, but what I can say in the professional industry, generally in real life, when you work, the scenarios that you face is more complex than what you learn from the book. So what you can advise your client, you have to have different types of, you must think differently out of the box, right? So that only you can advise your client. So the second thing is the continuous self-evaluations. Professional life is a continuous journey. You can't stop anywhere, right? It just continue. So you have to know where you are, who you are, you have to evaluate all the time so that you can improve yourself, then you can do better. Okay. The third thing is, of course, you have to stay fit and in good health. Whatever attributes that you have, I would think that this is very important because professional life is tough and challenging, yet interesting, but yet you need to stay in, you must have a very good health so that you can do your work, right, without any introduction, right? So without health, you can't do anything. So this is basically a summary of what I had mentioned earlier, right? So a lot of people thinking that, yeah, professional is very boring, maybe tough and challenging. At the first start, salary is not much, but I still had to put in a lot of effort, spend a lot of time to complete my jobs. So whether this is the career that I want to go to, right? So whether you are the one, right, wants to be a different, want to join the industry, right? So that's why in terms of the benefits that you have, that I would think that I actually would encourage lah. So after graduation, maybe you want to join professional firm, experience it, then maybe that it would be a suitable career path for you. Okay, so basically what I'm talking about just now is about the tax professions, but I'm now sharing with you some of the tax knowledge that I have learned from there. I don't touch much about this because certain things is very technical, right? So I'm not sure that whether you learned tax before, but certain things maybe you need to be aware of, right? In terms of corporate tax, basically Malaysian tax system, we are looking at territory basis. It means that only income accrued in or derived in Malaysia would be taxable in Malaysia. So if let's say it's a foreign source income, you earn from overseas, like probably you invest overseas, you interest dividend or interest from overseas, basically that is not taxable in Malaysia. Okay, so then in Malaysia for corporate, for a company, basically we can classify into two categories, SME and non-SME. So for SME, the corporate tax rate is 24%, and for non-SME is 24%, and for for SME there is a two-tier type of tax rate. For the first 600,000 chargeable income, you will be taxed at 70%, and the remaining will be taxed at 24%. So for SME, for tax purposes, there's a different definition from everywhere else. For tax purposes, how we classify is an SME. So basically, we are looking at the shareholding, 25 million and above and below. For SME, it's 25 million and below, and the company revenue is below 50 million. So if you are fulfilled that condition, then you are qualified as SME. So then, of course, for a Malaysian company, certain company, they may not qualify as a tax resident in Malaysia. So for a company, how we classify, how we think about, how we consider that company, whether it's a tax resident. So basically, we are looking at management and control, right? So for Malaysian's entity incorporate in Malaysia, there's no issue at all because the director, the employee, basically is all from Malaysia. So basically, they are tax residents. But some of the MNC, right? They actually set up a subsidiary in Malaysia. Everything, the management control is actually controlled by overseas, right? Even though they have a local director, but basically it's just like a nominations or a sleeping director. They don't really involve in the daily operations. They don't make decisions for the subsidiary. Everything is reported back to the subsidiary, to the holding company. So basically, they can't qualify a tax resident. So if they can't qualify a tax resident company, so basically there's disadvantage because you can't actually enjoy certain tax incentive, and the tax rate actually is flat at 24%. It's not like if you are SME, then you can qualify a two-tier type of tax rate. So for a company, of course, there are certain areas that we are not looking at. First thing is the tax losses. For Malaysian company, that's normal that we make losses, but whether you can utilize the losses indefinitely, basically there's no, right? So you can carry the tax losses, but there's a limitation. You only can carry forward for 7 years to be utilized in your business, right? So earnings stripping rules, this is very technical, right? So if you're looking at local groups of companies, sometimes they have intercompany loan, right? So they charge interest. So whether the tax interest, the interest expenses will be deductible. So this is actually governed by this earnings stripping rules. So certain portion of the tax may not be qualified for tax deduction. So it's very technical. There's a certain formula to calculate, but basically there's a cap there. It cannot be more than 20% of your tax EBITDA, right? So then the third thing is about capital allowances. Capital allowances, basically, as you know, company doing business, they invest, right? They incur capital expenditure, they buy asset to run their business. So from an accounting point of view, you will depreciate the assets, right? This is the capital nature. Depreciation would not rank for a deductions. But for tax purposes, we will do the adjustment on the depreciations, but in a way, they allow you to claim a capital allowances. This is what we call a tax depreciation, right? So this actually, you can carry forward and utilize it until you fully claim on the capex, the capital expenditure that you have incurred. So for company tax, basically, you have to file your tax return within 7 years of your company year end. Okay, so before that, of course, there's another tax filing you need to make, which is an estimated tax payable, right? For company tax, you don't pay tax. You not only pay tax when you file your tax return, but before that, you have to pay in advance. You have to estimate for the coming year how much tax you need to pay, right? So that has to be filed 12 months before, 30 days before the beginning of the financial year, right? So then you will start paying a 12 months installment, right? So that up to the end of the year, when you file your tax return, you determine your actual tax, then you have to compare with the estimated tax, how much that you have paid, then only you pay the balance. So of course, in Malaysia, like any other country, if you default in tax, there will be a penalty, right? So if you late, you submit late of your tax return, or you provide incorrect return, or you make payment, late payment of your tax, everything of your default will be penalized. Okay, then transfer pricing. This is the specific area which I have roughly explained earlier. So in Malaysia, of course, we also follow OECD guideline that you have to comply with. So what I can see recently is actually IRB carry out a lot of transfer pricing audit. Yeah, so what is the thing is, because a lot of MNC, they actually enjoy incentive, they don't pay tax in Malaysia. So that's why they actually conduct the audit whether their transaction is at arm's length. If not, then actually they will do an adjustment and the company had to pay tax on that. Yeah. So other than the taxes, the company tax I mentioned, the other area is the RPGT. RPGT basically will only apply if you buy and sell real property. Real property here, it means that land, building, or shares in the real property company. Because certain company, their activities is just to invest in a property and rent and receive rental. So that kind of company, basically, we can classify them as a real property company. If you want to sell share in that company, then the share will actually subject to RPGT. Okay. Then the other area we're looking about the stamp duty, right? So you have like a agreement or you have a certain financial instrument. So basically all that was subject to stamp duty. Stamp duty, basically there are two types of rate, ad valorem duty or a fixed duty. So ad valorem duty basically is a flexible type of rate. Probably is a 1%, 3%. It depends on the value of the instrument. So the last thing is about the withholding tax. A lot of you may not be understand what's withholding tax. Basically, it applies to payment made to non-resident. So there are a few areas we are looking at, like a dividend, interest, royalty, technical fee, contract payment, buying software. So you see, this may not apply to individual, but for company, when you make payment for this type of expenses, then you have to know about this withholding tax implications. These withholding tax implications can be mitigated if Malaysian have a double taxation agreement with the other country. Lastly, I will talk about the individual tax compliance. Like I said, company tax, we are looking at a territory basis. For individual, we also the same. So only the Malaysian source income will be taxable in Malaysia. So for tax resident, we are looking at the progressive rate from 0% to 30%. But if you are non-tax resident, then you are subject to tax at flat rate of 30%. So of course, tax resident, you can keep a lot of personal relief. So I believe that a lot of you may know that personal relief, it can be consist of individual, your wife, your children, or a lifestyle relief. And there are many types of relief that you can claim. Then of course, the filing deadline, if you are employee, a salaried individual, you only earn employment income, then you have to file the tax return before 30th April. But if you are sole proprietor, you have business income, then you can file the tax return by 30th of June every year. Okay, so you see how we determine whether you are tax resident or non-tax resident. This is governed by the Income Tax Act. For individual, if you are staying in Malaysia more than 182 days, then you become a tax resident. So everything remains the same like us. So you just file the tax return by the 30th April, you can claim the tax relief. This is very especially important because you know that Malaysia has a lot of MNC. Actually, they send a lot of people from overseas. So that we need to determine whether they can qualify as a tax resident or or because they don't fulfill the criteria, though they will fall under the tax non-resident category. So if you know for individual, right, basically, if you are in Malaysia more than 60 days, you have tax filing requirement. But then if you are staying in Malaysia for less than 182 days, then you can actually qualify for exemption according to the double taxation agreement that we have with that country. So it's not so easy. For a Malaysian, it's of course very easy. We're only looking at the tax resident category, everything as usual. But then if you are actually helping a individual, whether it's an expat or maybe your relative working outside Malaysia, so whether they need to file a tax return, whether it's under the tax resident category or non-tax resident category, you must really be aware of this. If not, then if you in default, then of course the penalty will come in, right? So one thing I want to say about tax resident, I noticed that a lot of you, if you are filing your tax return, whatever tax relief, you just claim maximum amount, but that's not so easy. Individual, you don't think that IRB don't come for audit, but basically they will still come for audit and they will request for document to support the relief that you have claimed. Certain thing, there's no documented to support, but a lifestyle relief like purchase of computer, handphone, or donations, or that, actually you need to produce the original receipts or invoices, right, to support the claim. So you don't everything simply claim 100%, just try to reduce your taxes. It's a risk to you because whatever adjustment may be bear in mind, it was subject to 45% penalty. So it's actually not worth to it, right? So you have to do it correctly, not just simply file your tax return. Last but not least, is certain thing that I want to let you understand is about recent tax updates. So you know that, as mentioned, tax is the primary source of our government revenue, right? So during this pandemic, our government have been giving out subsidies to the rakyat, right? So our government need money. So they are thinking of try to expand, right, the source of income, where they can look for more money for them to create their revenue, to increase their revenue. They have been talking about inheritance tax. They've been talking about carbon tax. The other thing, yesterday I read from the news is about windfall tax. I'm not sure that all that you have been heard about this. Inheritance tax, basically, they are talking about if your father have a property and they wants to pass on to you, right? So, or a certain property, they wants to inherit it to you. So in the past, there's no inheritance tax in Malaysia, but they are thinking of introducing this is when this kind of transactions, then they can impose this inheritance tax. But of course, the mechanism has never been discussed. We are not sure how it's going to be worked. So it's yet to be seen. So we would think that they may be happen, but may not be now. The other thing is the carbon tax, because our government is trying to look for to reduce the carbon consumption, reduce the greenhouse gases in Malaysia. In other countries already had this carbon tax, but in Malaysia, they are just thinking about introducing this carbon tax. The mechanism is quite complex because it can be on the industry, it can be taxed on the individual. So the mechanism, it can be on many ways. So they are now currently studying about this carbon tax, but there's no implementation yet. But of course, I would think that overall, during this pandemic, new taxes will not be introduced because we can't, pass on the burden to the rakyat, right? So it may be happen one day, but it's just not the right time to be introduced now. Then the next thing is about tax identification number. So this is actually started recently, 1st January 2021. So this actually applied to all new company, new businesses, and individual for the age 18 years old and above. What I can see actually from the corporate side, when you want to start a business, you register for the company with the CCM, then a tax number will be allocated to you automatically. But for the individual, I'm not sure whether for those above 18 years old, you already received a letter from the tax authority. That's the thing, the trend that we are looking, our government is looking at, because they try to, improve the tax compliance rate in Malaysia. For those 18 years old, of course, they also want to combat this shadow economy, because a lot of people doing online business, digital, then of course certain illegal business activity where they don't pay tax at all. But then with the new, this, what is it called, tax identification number, we call it TIN in short, they will be allocated to you automatically. With that number, you have to file your tax return, right? Even though you don't earn income, but with that number, there's obligations for you to file your tax return. Okay, so this is the thing we are looking at for the future. So of course, there's not so clear about how it works yet. So we just know that the number will be allocated automatically to the company, newly set up company, and for those individuals above 18 years old. And the last is about common reporting standard. This is very important, right? Because this is fall under the automatic exchange of information, right? For company, we are talking about country by country reporting. For individual, we are talking about common reporting standard. It's an international followed standard where the tax authority can exchange the financial information, right? With your, they will collect the information from all the financial institutions. I give you an example. If you're currently you are studying overseas, you are open a bank. Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Tan. Sorry to interrupt. You have 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you.
Almost to the end. Yeah. So you see, common reporting standard is really affected because you see, for those company, for those individuals, if you have a bank overseas, you do investment overseas, you have bank account, you have brokerage account overseas. So all that financial institution, actually, they will collect the information, submit to the overseas tax authority. Then the overseas tax authority will actually share the information back to Malaysia. Okay, so you can see that tax actually is very open now. There's no way to run. So as long as you earn income, you have to pay tax. A lot of people think that, I do maybe some business, everything in cash term. I don't keep my my cash in bank. So that's why bank don't have my information. Then where you want to keep your cash? You want to keep under your pillow, under your bed, but that's not safe, right? If let's say one day there's a thief coming in, right? Grab all your money, so you lost, right? So you see, there's no way. So eventually you want to do investment, you want to keep money in bank. So all that information will actually expose to tax authority. So the purpose of this CRS actually is try to combat tax evasion and improve tax compliance rate. Yeah, so this is very important. If you have overseas bank account, bear in mind, report your tax in Malaysia. because in the past 3 years, I've been handling a few cases, tax audit for individual under this common reporting standard. A lot of times, the issue come up is the lack of record keeping, because IRB can open back indefinite years. I don't know how many years. One of the clients actually experienced before, actually asking for 20 years record. Where does money come from, right? So if you are unable to justify that your money already pay tax or it actually belongs to overseas money, then you'll be in trouble. You have to pay tax on that amount. Yeah, so this bear in mind. So you can see that basically overall tax is very interesting yet challenging. So you just have to try to understand whether this area is the career path that you want to go. Yeah, so basically that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tan. It was great to hear about the latest tax information that was out of the box. And now I'd like to invite our moderator, Melody, to carry out the Q&A session. Passing on to you, Melody.
Thank you, Yi-Hong, and hi, Mr. Tan. Thank you for the amazing sharing. So let us begin our 15 minutes Q&A session. So let's see, we have some questions from the floor. So here goes the first question addressed to Mr. Tan. We have from Dylan. He would like to know, is there any requirement on digital skills in tax career?
Of course it is, because you see, in the past, tax work is very boring. Basically, we just sit in the office, then we are using Excel or Words to do. So basically, we just rely on Words and Excel's skill to help us. But you see, tax works have been involved, right? So we need to do presentations, a lot of discussion. Other than, using Zoom. A lot of people still don't know using Zoom. So we are using Zoom to conduct our meeting. Then we need to know PowerPoint skill. We have to prepare the slides, right? So that is from the IT perspective, we need to know, especially during this pandemic. Of course, Deloitte have been invested a lot in technology. We are going for paperless. We need to know how to use PDF. We have to do our work online. So I would say that technology is one part of this. Yeah, so we are also talking about digitalizations in the tax profession.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tan, for your informative sharing. So now moving on to the next question we have from Chia Yi. She's asking if Mr. Tan could explain some thoughts on arm's length principle in transfer pricing.
Oh, okay. That's actually very technical. So you see, for transfer pricing, we are talking about arm's length principle. So how this arm's length principle come about? It means that if you're looking into an intercompany transaction, they tend to move their profits to a low tax jurisdictions, right? So because they try to move the profits out of Malaysia, let's say Malaysia is taxed at 24%, and taxes in tax haven country like Cayman Island, Bermuda, they actually don't pay zero tax. So they actually move all the profit out of Malaysia. So if, let's say, under this transfer pricing arm's length principle, right? So if you are dealing with a third party customer, would you do that? Would you sell a cheaper price to your third party customer as what you sell to your related company? So you see, I'm saying basically we are looking at market value, not the so-called modified pricing, right? So we are looking at the pricing policy, right? So it must be at arm's length, it must be a market value. Assume that you are actually doing business transactions with a third party, right? So selling to related or selling to third party, it should be at the same approach. So this is a so-called arm's length principle.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. That was a really valuable information. So let's proceed with the third questions. We have questions from Mr. Jiao Tan asking about, is there differences between tax avoidance and tax evasion?
Oh, definitely is a very big difference. You see, tax avoidance is legitimate. It's something that we do it in a legal way, right? So that's why I say you're looking into international perspective, like I explained earlier. When they do certain restructuring or that thing, actually we try to mitigate the tax risk. So this is what we call a tax avoidance, right? But then tax evasions, you do it deliberately, purposely to avoid tax. You don't pay tax at all, right? So that is illegal, right? So tax evasions actually, from a tax perspective, actually is a criminal offense. So if you are fall under that category, actually you can be sued to court. So it's very serious offense. So that's the difference. One is tax avoidance, illegitimate. Tax evasion is tax evasion is illegal, but tax avoidance illegitimate.
Thank you, Mr. Tan, for this informative message. So moving on, we have questions from Karan. He's asking, with the recent development of technology in the accounting and finance world, is the taxation industry also going through a development process whereby we can expect automated robotic softwares to take over the work of taxation officer in the near future?
Actually, if you're looking at the current situation, this is the trend we are going to. You see, like our tax authority, in the past, there's a lot of hard copies submission, but they also have been upgraded their system. They have the online system. Everything they are actually go for online submission rather than hard copy submission. So you see, for tax purposes, of course, we are looking at the robotic. That's why we come up a new service line. We call it tax management consulting. So basically, this is why we are looking at try to automate the process of our customer in-house tax operational, because they were the benefit is try to help them to safeguard their data, try to have a more efficient tax operation. Then when they provide the informations or whatever they do, the informations provided can be more accurate. So not only accounting, but tax, actually we are looking go into the same directions.
Maybe we will be looking at a lot of automations on software soon, as from Mr. Tan's point of view. Thank you very much for this informative sharing. So we're moving on to the next question we have from Xiaoshen, asking, what are the few significant tax policy changes during the pandemic that are really important for the fresh graduates to take note on?
Of course, you see, government have been introducing a lot of what we so-called a stimulus package. So that actually not really impact for the fresh grad, because government try to help the industry. Then of course, with that initiative, a lot of things also become a tax-related matters. So it's not really affected the fresh grad. It's just that I would think that during this pandemic, maybe the opportunities to look for jobs is not there, because as you know, we're actually looking at cut cost initiative. We try to not to incur so much thing, and actually we try to freeze the headcount. So if you're a fresh grad and you just graduated, then you may not be able to look for a job in the professional industry. But of course, if you are really outstanding, so actually all the firms, I would say that is very competitive. They try to pull in their talent. So actually there's still room, but I would say that the opportunity may be affected.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. So we have another question to add up from maybe Pei Fen. She was asking which course in the future career which you will encourage our students to pursue, like which career is it, like between accounting career and tax career maybe?
If you're looking at in terms of career path, of course, I'm from tax background. I will encourage you to join tax, right? Because what I can see that, like, if you hear me just now, tax is very challenging, right? It keeps changing. Then it depends on your personality, whether you are hardworking enough, you are really proactively try to improve yourself, update yourself with all the changes. Because in these professions, you have to deal with a lot of clients, and whatever issues that you face, it may be all different, very complex, right? So this is the thing that what I say very challenging, but it's very interesting. You actually basically can see a lot of things. You can learn a lot of things from there. You know how the client operates. I give you one example, transfer pricing. A lot of people thinking about accounting tax, we are only looking into numbers, right? Analyze the financial statement, the balance sheet, but for transfer pricing, we are not looking into the financial only, but we really have to understand the operations of the company, what things they are doing, the activities that they have. So when we carry out transfer pricing work, basically we have to visit our client, right? Go for a plant tour, see what kind of functions that they have, try to understand the manufacturing flow. A lot of things you may not see, you can learn from there. So like me actually leading the transfer pricing team, I have been go to semiconductor industry, I have been go to aerospace industry, agriculture, all that thing you may not have the chance to go if you do in some other industry. Yeah, so actually you can learn a lot of business industry knowledge from there, not only from the financial. So I would say that tax maybe is an area that you should go because you can really learn a lot of things.
Thank you, Mr. Tan, for these tips. So maybe we have from our participants, other than transfer pricing, the tax area learned that would not be valued worldwide or otherwise.
Sorry, come again. What's your question?
The question is like, if there is other than transfer pricing, what is the tax area learned that would not be valued worldwide or otherwise?
Okay, based on the current situations, what I see, right? So you see, actually every country try to attract FDI, foreign direct investment, right? So when there's a foreign direct investment coming into a certain country, I give you an example, just Malaysia, right? So we have to see, I mean, when we meet a new client, so basically what they need to know is setting up a factory, setting up a company, a business in Malaysia. So other than tax aspects, besides transfer pricing, there's a lot of things we need to know, right? We need to know the process of setting up a company. And when the FDI coming in, right, basically they are big corporations. They try to save tax. The one area is grant and incentive, right? So we have actually, like, you know, MIDA, right? MIDA not only in Malaysia, but actually is all in worldwide, in US, everywhere. So we actually work with MIDA in US when there is a US investor coming into Malaysia. So what they want to understand is basically Malaysian tax system, infrastructure, whatever that we can provide to them. So of course, one thing is try to save tax, right? So they are looking for grant and incentive. What kind of incentive that Malaysian government can provide to them? Corporate and individual tax, basically, it's just bread and butter. That is the compliance. So that's no matter how you have to do it. For the specialized area, I would say transfer pricing, grant and incentive. This is the areas they are looking at. And the other one, probably what you can looking into, maybe is a custom, right? Because you have export and import, right? So when you set up company, you need to bring your material, you need to bring your people. So this is the area that we're looking at, right? How to save the excess duty, whether there's any sales tax implications, whether it's any service tax implications. So indirect tax is one of the area also we are looking at. So this is more, I would say, current situations where are people looking at custom, indirect tax issue, transfer pricing, and grant and incentive.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. So unfortunately, due to time constraint, we might need to end the Q&A session now. So I would like to apologize to all participants that thank you very much for sharing your questions as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Tan, for providing us with your valuable insights and advice on the questions being asked. So I shall pass it back to our NC Yi Hong.
Thank you, Melody, and thank you, Mr. Tan, for your valuable insights and sharing on tax that matters in today's economy. And I'm pretty sure that your remarks have triggered new ideas to our audiences in their future plan. And dear audiences, please fill out the feedback form for this session, which is the second plenary session with the link shown in the chat box, or you may scan the QR code in the slides. And now, let us have a break before we move on with the next session, and please be back by 11:30. Thank you.
To all participants, we are really sorry that we're facing a little technical issues. While we shall wait for maybe a 1 or 2 minutes first, we wait for the IT department, settling every single thing. Yeah, we're really sorry about that. Well, I think in the meanwhile, while waiting for the IT department, well, I guess most of the participants here are not really from Central College Penang, I guess. Yeah, so maybe I shall promote or maybe introduce a bit about Central College Penang. So as you all know, Central College Penang is actually located at the fringe of the heritage area. So Central College Penang serves to provide an excellent and honest tertiary education platform to students in the northern region of Malaysia. So the campus is housed in a gleaming 14-story building. It equipped with cutting-edge facilities, and all amenities are within easy reach. So Central College Penang actually offers a lot of programs which are approved by the Ministry of Education (MOE) and accredited by the Malaysian Qualification Agency (MQA). So the field of studies are business and management, accounting and finance, computing and IT, tourism and hospitality as well, and as well as early childhood education. So the college works in partnership with University of Salford, Manchester of UK, to provide affordable world-class UK degrees. Yes, and besides, the team at Central College Penang uphold its Hi, Dr. Yasha. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, so dear participants, seems like Dr. Yasha it's back. Well, let me jump to the brief introduction about Dr. Yasha. Okay, is it okay, Dr. Yasha?
Sure, you can.
All right. Thank you, participants, for the waiting. Now let us welcome the third speaker of the day, Dr. Yasha Salamzadeh from the University of Science, Malaysia. So Dr. Yasha is the head of Global Strategy and Organizational Behavior Research Cluster at GSB USM. He is also an editorial board member and reviewer in more than 20 top international business and management journals. He has published more than 100 articles in national and international journals. Not to miss out, Dr. Yasha has 8 years of experience on business consultancy for public and private sectors, 10 years of postgraduate students, 10 years of experience on training for businesses, and 11 years of teaching to business postgraduate students. So today, we are fortunate to have Dr. Yasha here to share with us about digital leadership, a new perspective to leadership skills of tomorrow. Now let us welcome him with the loudest applause. Now over to you, Dr. Yasha.
Thank you. So let me share my slides again. Okay. So I hope now you all can see the slides, so we can start. Okay. First of all, as it was shared right now, my name is Yashar, and I'm coming from Graduate School of Business, University of Science, Malaysia. And today I'm planning to have a very brief discussion about digital leadership with you. because this is one of the new perspectives that the new generation of leaders need to have. So, I prefer to make my presentation as short as possible and give a space to your questions. So in this way, I think you can get more from my presentations. But before moving to the concept of digital leadership and to learn what it means, in fact, I want to share some general ideas with you on why we are talking about this change. I'm sure in yesterday's talks and also on today's talks and also the roundtables, you have heard a lot about the change we are experiencing. And in fact, the root of these changes is on the nature of the industrial revolutions. As people in business and management field, I guess you all need to have a clear vision about industrial revolutions. So as you may know, now we are on the edge of IR 4.0. And in order to know what is expecting for us to happen, we need to know what were the previous industrial revolutions. So as you can see, on 17th or 18th century, we had the first industrial revolution. It was an invention of steam engines. So it was something new. Many people felt that they are going to lose their jobs. So, and in fact, it happened. And many people who were doing some physical jobs lost their jobs. And many people started to learn new skills, to improve themselves, to upskill themselves, and make themselves prepared for this revolution. And many new jobs were created. So, for example, when there were some steam engines, many factories started to use this. So there were a need for people to, for example, work on maintenance of those engines, to design the engines, to improve the engines, to design new applications for those engines. So many new jobs were creating. And after the Industrial Revolution, the first Industrial Revolution, the number of jobs and the diversity of them were much higher than the time we had before this Industrial Revolution. After about 100 years, a new Industrial Revolution happened, the second Industrial Revolution, which was about the electricity, usage of electricity in businesses, in factories, in different industries. Again, the same thing started to happen. Many people had started to learn how to use with steam engines, how to repair them, how to design them, and many new jobs were created. But again, according to this new change, people started to think that they are going to lose their jobs. And same thing started to happen. A new round of upskilling, a new round of new job creations. And same as the previous Industrial Revolution, the number and diversity of jobs after the Industrial Revolution were much higher compared to the time before the Industrial Revolution. And then, as you can see, about 70 years ago, or 50 years ago, we started to move to the third Industrial Revolution. As you can see, the gap between the Industrial Revolution is getting closer and closer. And on third Industrial Revolution, it was on the usage of computers, ICs. And again, it made a big difference in many business and management jobs, in organizational jobs, many big changes in the businesses, in industries. And same as previous Industrial Revolution, many people who were not ready to upskill themselves lost their jobs. But as you all know, after the vast usage of these computers and ICs in different industries, many new jobs started to be created. And same thing happens after this Industrial Revolution. And the reason we call them Industrial Revolution is this nature, the need for upskilling, the need for moving to more empowerment and creation of new jobs. So many of the jobs after the Industrial Revolution are completely new to the market, to the business, and to the industry. So the same thing happened on this. When we had the computers, people started to have new jobs as, for example, computer engineers. programmers, or even some very routine jobs like being a clerk started to change when they learned how to use computers. Now you can see when we use a very simple Excel file, it's much easier compared to, for example, 40 years ago where we didn't have any, for example, computer programs. So this is the nature of Industrial Revolution. And now we are on the age of fourth Industrial Revolution. And here, I think the first talks about this IR 4.0 started on year 2011 in Germany. And in fact, it was the introduction of new technologies, new intelligences, business intelligences, artificial intelligence, how to use big data, how to use robots, machine learning, predictive analysis. And all these tools are something new. And we all know that the same thing as all three previous industrial revolutions is about to happen. So many of us who are not ready to change our mindset, who are not ready to upskill, may lose our jobs. Many of the current jobs in different businesses, in different industries, will not be there after this industrial revolution. So we need to start upskilling ourselves. We need to start creating new jobs. Later in next slides, I'm going to explain more on this change in business and industries. So this is something that we are expecting. And why I plan to talk about digital leadership today? Because digital leadership is among the skills we need to have after this industrial revolution. And many new jobs will be built, will be created according to this skill for different people in the organization, different levels of managers, and also different levels of employees. So these are the new skills. Among the new skills we need to gain, we need to upskill ourselves for future. So let's move to the next slide. I am sharing a diagram here about the digital competencies and digital skills of Malaysian managers compared to the average digital business managers and digital leaders of the world. So this was according to a study done by Korn Ferry company in year 2018, 3 years ago. But in fact, no major change has happened since then, as I'm working with many different businesses and industries in Malaysia now. And as you can see, these colored parts of the diagram are showing the Malaysian leaders. And as you can see, there are 3 dimensions here. The traits we expect from digital leaders, the competencies that digital leaders need to have, the yellow one, and the drivers of digital leaders. As you can see, on drivers, Malaysian leaders or Malaysian digital leaders are performing good. They are close to the average of the world. But you can see the difference between the Malaysian leaders and the global benchmark of the digital leaders on traits, digital traits and digital competencies is really huge. So this is the reason you, as the graduates in business and management field, need to upskill yourself. And I'm sure many of you are familiar to the national strategies in Malaysia, even in Vision 2030 or in Industry Forward National Strategy in Malaysia. There are many initiatives, many plans to upskill the human capital of Malaysia. When we talk about human capital, I think majority of the audience of this session can be called the human capitals of Malaysia. So these are the need for you to upskill yourself. And among those skills that you need to gain in order to have jobs after this industrial revolution and in order to be ready to develop new jobs is the digital leadership, what we are going to talk about today. So here is a very brief explanation on the future leadership mindset. And when we discuss about this future leadership mindset, we need to have in mind that we can use all of them in the field of digital leadership, which I will explain it more in next slides. As you can see, digital leaders need to have a clear vision and ability to see the future for their organizations. So it's very important for you, and there will be some tools like predictive analysis tools, like business intelligence tools, but those are only tools. We need to increase and improve this skill in humans. And this vision building and being able to see the future, to imagine a future for your organization, for your industry is very important. The new perspective on business models is very important. As people in business and management field, you all need to be familiar with business models and how we can transform our business models. So this is a must for all of you to be ready for the era of this IR 4.0 and after this industrial revolution. The third mindset I wanted to share with you is about managing the teams. It's very important because the nature of the teams in organizations in different industries is about to change. So as I will explain a bit more later, we are facing new generations of teams in organizations. One of them, if you want to search in the net, are super teams. The teams that have some artificial intelligence members and also some human members, and they need to work with each other in a team. So you need to be able to set goals for those teams, to measure their performance, to design these teams and manage them in very close future. And many businesses have started to use these super teams. So this is the third mindset. The fourth mindset is about how we motivate and foster cooperation among our different types of employees. These different types can be this completely different natures like human and machines, human and robots, human and artificial intelligence, or people from different backgrounds, people from different cultures. So this is very important when we move to the future of our organizations. And this will happen in many different organizations in a very close future. And finally, the last mindset I wanted to share with you is sufficient domain understanding to keep the teams moving. You need to have knowledge about the job you are doing. And as I will share later with you, this is why you need to upskill yourself. You need to increase your skills and competencies continuously. Getting a bachelor degree, a master degree, and even a PhD degree is not enough anymore. You need to learn how to learn. And this is very important. You need to be able to upgrade yourself. You need to be able to have the up-to-date knowledge about your field of expertise. This is very important in digital leadership as well. So when we talk about digital leadership, what do we mean with digital leaders? This is very important because we have many different definitions for digital leaders and digital leadership. But if I want to summarize it for you, we can categorize them in different categories. The first category is about the leader who is working in a digital company. Now we have many digital organizations, virtual organizations. We have virtual universities, digital companies, and the people who are leading these companies are called digital leaders. The second category of digital leaders are the leaders who are working in the current or traditional form of organizations, but they use digital tools in order to make decisions, in order to do their daily jobs in the organization. Like for example, leaders or managers who are using business intelligence, who are using predictive analysis, who are using big data analysis. And now, as you may know, many companies, many organizations, even in Malaysia, are using these tools. So we also call them digital leaders because they are using some digital tools. And the next category are the leaders who are planning to transform their current organization from their traditional business model to a digital business model, to make their organization a digital organization. This digital transformation needs specific types of leaders. Again, we call them digital leaders. So when we talk about digital leadership, you need to consider these three categories of leaders in organizations. So if you review the books or the papers or the online articles about digital leadership, in some cases you may feel that there is a lack of consistency in defining the digital leadership concept. So I have summarized the digital leadership concept here for you. As you can see, we have three different approaches about digital leadership. And when you read a paper, a book, or an article about digital leadership, you need to be able to categorize this digital leadership. You need to be able to recognize what this paper or this book or this article or this movie is talking about. So the first category I wanted to share with you is about assuming digital leadership as a role. So when the authors, the scholars are sharing digital leadership and they assume it as a role, they talk about a networker leader, a catalyzer leader, a leader who supports innovation, a kind of insider expert in organization, a digital innovator who supports digital innovations, or in some cases, the innovation evangelists, some active digital innovators. These are the roles we expect from a digital leader when we assume it as a role. The second category is when we assume digital leadership as a skill set. So this is different. When we assume it as a skill set, we talk about the communication skills, digital communication skills of the leaders, digital vision buildings of the leaders, digital literacy of them, how they can make digital strategies, digital innovations, and many other characteristics and skill sets like networking intelligence, business intelligence, change management, or transformation, which are very common key terms in digital transformation and digitalization. And as you can see, here we are talking about skills and competencies of digital leaders. And the last category is when we assume digital leadership as a culture. When we assume this as a culture, we talk about how we deploy this mindset in our organization, how we build participation in digital platforms, in, for example, organizational or enterprise social media platforms, when we provide direction and clarity and purpose to our employees, when we empower our people and we make them innovate, we respect their ideas, we hear their voice in organization, when we build online and digital participation and accountability. These are all about the culture. When we assume our organization to be digitally agile, to make quick and some data-based decisions, and also constantly re-skilling. So this re-skilling or upskilling is very important in digital leadership when we assume it as a culture. So, as you can see, what I shared in previous slide is mainly about a very important key term about digital leadership. And this key term is innovation. And we need to know why digital leaders need this innovation skills. This innovation is very important for them. I have shared some examples here for you. For example, on digital transformation, when they want to transform their business, when they want to move their organization from point A to point B, they need some skills about digital transformation and how they can make innovations. Innovations in business models, innovations in how they do their daily jobs, innovation in adding new technologies or not adding new technologies to their organization. And for example, for supporting innovators, they need this innovation skills, for finding the emerging digital solutions. It's very important for digital leaders. They need to be innovative to find out this the role of these emerging technologies. And as you all may know, we are having this emerging digital technologies in a daily and weekly manner nowadays. In order to make decisions for future, I think it's clear to increase the agility of the organization. And finally, what I want to emphasize on is on human empowerment. Digital leaders need to have innovation skills to find some proper empowerment opportunities for the people in the organization. We cannot continue with previous training and development approach. Even the training and development topics will not work for future. So they need to be innovative to find some fields that can use them to empower and upskill their employees, their managers, and their stakeholders. So, and how do these digital leaders make this innovation happen? How do they innovate? I have categorized it again for you in 3 categories. As you can see, the first category is about by adding new digital technologies, all these IR 4.0 related tools like big data analysis, predictive analysis, business intelligence, artificial intelligence, and so on. So by adding these new technologies, the leaders can make some innovation in their organization. The second category is by managing the digital transformation journey of the organization. It is in line with the definition I shared with you on digital leadership. And they need to be able to design and develop a vision, develop a roadmap for their organization. Talent planning is becoming more and more important every day. And finally, continuous change and innovation or transformation, which is the nature of our time. If we do not change, for sure we will find ourselves beneath this wave of change. So we need to be ready for this change. We cannot continue doing our jobs same as what we are doing now. And finally, by having a human-based approach in decision making. Here I want to emphasize that when we talk about digital leaders, the core in digital leadership is not about the technology. Technology is only a tool to help us to manage our people better, to upskill our people, to improve the competencies of the humans inside the organization, to increase the happiness of the stakeholders. Now we have many companies, many organizations that have started to measure the performance of themselves by happiness index. How happy their employees are, how happy their clients are, how happy is the society about their activities. So this happiness index is becoming very important. This is why you can hear about user experience, employee experience a lot in current years, in last 4 or 5 years. You easily can hear about these experiences because these experiences are human-based, and this is very important for digital leaders to use them to innovate. So, and finally, on the next slide, I want to share some innovation styles with you to get a better view about this innovation, who this digital leaders try to use. One of the leadership innovation styles I want to share with you is participative innovation. Many of these innovation styles have some overlaps with each other, but the main idea in them is that we need to include different stakeholders in the process of innovation. The traditional R&D organizations, R&D departments will not work anymore. We need to invite our, for example, stakeholders, our clients, our customers, our employees, even our competitors to make the innovation together. So only in this way we can be successful. So participative innovation, open innovation, again, the same idea, disruptive innovations, going for some really disruptive change in the ways of doing activities and practices in organizations, using agile innovation, innovative digital teams. This is in line with agile approach, which uses some cycles in this perspective. Co-innovation, innovation for social context is getting more and more important. I'm sure you have heard about RI 5.0 or Society 5.0. This is assumed as the next generation of change in industrial revolution, which we need to pay more attention to the needs of the society. So the social context will become more and more important in making innovation. We need to innovate to fulfill some needs of the society. Experience-based innovation, and finally, innovation based on collective awareness, which is a new approach in organization. And we use the awareness of our employees, our different types of stakeholders to make the innovation. And this is how successful companies are innovating these days. The next sub-skill in digital leadership, which I want to share with you and I want to emphasize on, is about diversity and inclusion. This diversity and inclusion will be a very important component of leadership in a close future. And I saw some European companies have started to have this inclusion and diversity department inside their HR departments. Or here in Malaysia, we have some companies that they have divided their HR department to HR and culture department. So they have another sub-department named culture management department. So this diversity is very important, because when we move to this digital transformation journey, when we start this journey, when we start to digitalize our organizations, we need to work with diverse people. We need to have the inclusion, and it will be very important for us to be able to manage them. I gave some examples to you on diversity. Diversity between human and non-human agents, diversity between human from different cultures, different continents, different countries. Even in one country, you can have different cultures. So it's very important. And in close future, we are going to have jobs in HR field, diversity and inclusion managers, diversity and inclusion experts. So this is very important, and digital leaders need to have a certain level of knowledge about diversity and inclusion. Okay, here I want to share some general ideas about the characteristics of digital culture, because another important skill which digital leaders need is about managing the digital culture in their organization. In last 1.5 years, due to the pandemic, many companies have started to feel some change in their culture, the way of working, the way people are interacting with each other. And this is about digital culture. And organizations need to have better ideas on managing their digital culture. I'm not going to read these slides, the components of the slide, but I want to give you this brief idea that in digital culture, usually we need to have multitasking. We use micro time. We divide our activities into micro activities and we manage them in that way. The interactivity is higher. You easily can see a very simple example is the WhatsApp groups that many companies, many organizations have started to use in past 1.5 years. So the interconnectivity between employees, managers, different teams is a part of the digital culture. Or the new experience of the employees is another thing. We all have read articles about the experience of the employees about working from home or teleworking. So these are components of digital culture. And if you want to be a successful leader, you need to be able to map the culture of the organization, the digital culture of the organization. And here we need some new soft skills as well. both the managers and the employees need to have some skills to get closer and in line with the digital culture of their organization. And for example, different types of literacy are becoming more and more important. Technology literacy, digital literacy, emotional literacy. These are the components that are becoming more and more important in digital culture. So this is very important for a successful digital leader to be able to manage the culture in their digital organization. So one of my last slides is about the future direction. What is waiting for us? The first thing we need to consider is about the Industrial Revolution 4.0. As I shared with you, start thinking about the future. Start thinking about the new jobs that are going to be there in the market. Make yourself ready for those new jobs. And I was reading a paper. It was mentioned that 70% of the students who are in high school now are going to work on the jobs that are not there in the market yet. 70%. So we need to be ready for this in coming maybe 5 or 6 years. So when you assume this, that the current jobs may be not there anymore, and there will be a great range of new jobs. So make yourself ready for this new vast jobs available in the market in close future. The social integration and diversity is getting more and more important, as I shared with you in inclusion and diversity part. The circular economy is getting more and more important. And when organizations start to work digitally, this circular economy can happen easier. And as you may know, one of the categories of green organizations, green businesses, is the digital businesses. So when we move towards this digitalization, we are moving to a more green organization as well. The future of work or futures of work is also important. As I shared with you, we are going to have different types of work and workplaces in future. So you need to be ready for that. You need to have some imaginations about the future. The talent flow will be very common in future organization. Now we have, for example, talent management in some organization. In some companies, we are still on human resource management. We have not moved to the talent or human capital management. But in future, we are going to move to the talent flow. So the talents with some special skills can easily flow from one company to the other, from one organization to the other. They easily can work for more than one company at the same time because the skill will be very important for organization. So the jobs will be different. How we empower our talents, how we manage our talents will be different because this talent flow is happening easier. Social impact analysis is getting more and more important. Many companies have started to measure their social impact. We had some consultancy projects here in Malaysia that companies, big MNCs, have started to measure their social impact. It's very important for them. And soon, many SMEs will also move to this. Many public organizations will also measure their social impact regularly. Equality and justice will be higher in digital world. There will be less discrimination on gender, on race, on nationality, on religion, and different factors. So transparency will be higher. We all know when we move to digital world, digital organizations, the transparency goes higher. So all of us need to be ready for that. Becoming more value-driven is important. This is in line with what I shared with you about the business model innovations. It's very important for future organizations to have some kind of value propositions for the society, for the stakeholders, which is in line with their values. And finally, becoming more data-driven is another trend that we are experiencing now. Many organizations have started to use big data big data analysis, predictive analysis to make decisions for future of the organization, to develop strategies for future, to make decisions in their organizations. And finally, I want to share with you that any innovation, which this digital transformation is one of them, starts with a story about the future. And digital leaders must be good storytellers. I want all of you to think about this question. What's your digital story for future? And this story will be the guideline for you, will be the roadmap for you to gain some skills for future, to upskill yourself for future, even to design some new jobs for future. And this is what we expect from the new generation of our graduates, even fresh graduates. They have the potential to be successful digital leaders of the future. And more than what we have here as fresh graduates, we have this new generation which are under 20 years old now. They also will be very successful digital leaders of future because the majority of them have some digital stories about the future. And this is very important. Think about this digital story for yourself, for your organization, for your job, for your skills in future. So that was all from my side. Now I will leave the open for Q&A session. And you can see my emails there. If you want to keep in touch, we can keep in touch. And I also will share the slides with the Central College, so they can share the slides with the audiences later. Thank you, and that was all from my side.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yasha, for bringing such impactful topic. Now, I would like to invite our moderator of this session, Melody, to carry out the Q&A with Dr. Yasha. Following on to you, Melody.
Thank you, Hui. Hi, Dr. Yasha. Thank you for the great sharing on digital leadership. So before we begin, I would like to encourage all participants, don't be shy to ask any questions or doubt you have in our chat box. So now let's begin our Q&A session. So I see we have some questions from the floor. So we have questions from Karan. He asks, what is meant by the term agility of an organization, and how can we increase its prospects in the organization itself while incorporating the elements of innovation in it?
Okay. Talking about agility, we need to know that agile organizations need to have a certain characteristics. One of them, which is the most important one, is the flexibility. If you are familiar to the agile approach, we have, for example, agile human resource management, agile project management. In all this agile approach, we have some cycles. For example, you have some cycles to some loops to review your strategies, to review your, for example, activities, to review your performance in a short period of time. And then, according to the feedback you receive, you make decisions for the future. It shows that you are flexible. When you are flexible, when everyone in your team, in your organization knows that using this flexibility, they can have some impact on the future decisions of the organization. It is a very simple definition of agility. So when your organization is not so rigid, when you accept the comments and suggestions of the employees and managers and all the stakeholders, clients even, customers, you are moving towards this agility. So you need to be flexible and you need to be ready for change. If you think that we have decided on this strategy and we are going to follow this strategy for 5 years, you cannot be agile. But in agile perspective, you need to review, you need to revise, you need to set a new direction. I hope it was the answer for your question. Karen?
Thank you, Dr. Yasha, for these informative answers. So he actually added a few. There's some queries for Dr. Yasha. How can we measure the effectivity of the innovation we have created? Are there any series of tests or any progression tools we can use to measure the degree of effectivity?
Yeah. In fact, when we talk about innovation, we have different tools to measure the effectiveness and efficiency of our innovations, same as other decision makings. Because making innovation happen is a kind of decision making. And same as how we measure the success and effectiveness of our strategies, we can measure the effectiveness and success of our innovation. We have both quantitative methods and qualitative methods. Quantitative is more about the numbers, values, dollars, people, number of customers. When you make a new innovation and you see that your income generation is getting higher and higher. So this is a quantitative approach. Or we also can have qualitative approach. For example, when we measure the satisfaction of our customers from this innovation. So we have many different tools, maybe more than hundreds of tools, both qualitative and quantitative, to measure the effectiveness and efficiency of our innovations.
Thank you. I think that answers, that is a great answers for Karen's question. So now we have another question from Dr. Chong. She asked about, will circular economy and sustainability become an important area for our future generation? Should it be one of the topic or even module for students to know and understand about it?
Yeah, in my opinion, this is a must for the student perspective, from the academia perspective, that with the students, no matter from business and management field, but also the pure science, the engineering, even the medical schools, need to make the students familiar to the sustainability concept, because the future has this sustainability component in any type of organization, in any type of business, and in any type of workplace. So as the academia, when we make our graduates, our students ready for the industry, for the workplaces, we need to make them familiar with this concept. Because if they face this phenomena in the workplace, it can be a shock for them. Why I know nothing about this important concept? So I guess it is a must, and this is why even in our university, in Graduate School of Business, I'm in charge of the green business subject for our MBA students as well, because I believe that this green business is very important for our students to use that in their daily organizational lives.
Thank you, Dr. Yasha. I absolutely agree that we should reduce the gap of shock between, like, when we are really going to work and studying is totally different situations. So moving on, we have questions from Gim Singh. Throughout your digital, Dr. Yasha, digital career, digital era of workforce experience, have you ever experienced that people or employees around you are not ready to adapt themselves to the digital era? What is your advice to them?
Okay, in fact, yeah, I have seen many of them because I'm in touch with many different types of businesses here in Malaysia, ranging from SMEs to MNCs. And usually we can see this type of employees. And as I shared with you, before and after any industrial revolution, many people lose their jobs because they are not ready for this change. They don't accept to use this. If I want to give a very simple example to you, this example is for example, 30 years ago, when clerks were not accepting to use computers in their offices. When they couldn't use computers, they lost their jobs easily. And same is happening right now. If we are not ready for this change, the same thing will happen for us. We will lose our jobs. So no matter we are, for example, university lecturers, we are business managers, we are public sector servants, we all need to get ready for this change. And this is why I shared with you about the upskilling. If you do not move towards upskilling, for sure, you will not have a job in future. And no matter what is your qualifications, you have a PhD degree holder, bachelor degree holder, or master degree holder, it will not be so important in future. And this is why I will share some ideas about this in the afternoon session in the roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yashar, for your answer. Yes, I do notice some people do not want change. They just want to stay in their comfort zone and do things the comfortable way. So now we have another question from Mr. Jiao Tan. He asked about what matters. What matters the most is mostly don't exactly know how and to fix this mindset instead, but what is a problem behind this? Like, is there any like possible advice or quick leap of first steps that you could say?
Okay, let me share something from the organizational behavior approach. So if we want to see something tangible among the employees, managers of our organizations, we need to start with their knowledge. We need to empower them with the knowledge. When they have the knowledge, they will change their attitude. And when the attitude changes, we can see the change in the behavior. We cannot start with changing the behavior. We cannot order a change in the behavior and expect a very unique and successful change in the behavior. If we want to see a very stable change in the behavior, we need to start with the knowledge. We need to share this knowledge with our employees in any ways, with official educations, with joining workshops, making them read more, or have some sharing sessions, regular sharing sessions. In this way, when we increase the knowledge, this knowledge will make some change in the attitudes of the employees and managers, and then the attitude will result in a change in behavior. So this is the only way we have.
Thank you, Dr. Yashar, for your insights. I believe it's a great solutions for that. So we have like a questions from another participant. Okay, so this question addressed to Dr. Yashar. With the emergence of 5G internet connectivity in certain parts of the world, like China, can we expect a greater industry revolution than IR 4.0, like Industry Revolution 5.0 in the future? How far from moving into IR 5.0?
Okay. In fact, we don't know about the future, but I can share what I guess. So as I shared with you on my first slide about Industrial Revolution, you see that the gap between Industrial Revolution is getting shorter and shorter. From 100 years, moved to 50 years, now to 30 years. Maybe the next Industrial Revolution is after 10 years. So and these tools, the 5G is also one of the components of IR 4.0. But as I shared with you, after now about 10 years of discussion about IR 4.0, we have started to hear the term Society 5.0. It says that we need to use all these technological tools, all our experiences, our human skills and competencies in order to have a better impact on our society. So this is assumed as the next generation of the change in the organizations, in the societies, and in businesses and industries. So I guess what is clear right now is the importance of the society and having this among our priorities. But I'm not sure if we are going to get exposed to new technological change or not, but or if we are moving to that concept of integrated world or not, the Web 4 approach. But I guess in future years, we are going to hear more about the impact of our organization, the impact of our activities, how we use the tools, and its impact on the society.
Thank you, Dr. Yashar, for sharing your perspective with us. But unfortunately, due to the time limit, we might have to end this Q&A session here. I would like to say it is really an eye-opening session, and I believe your sharing definitely has positively impacted all our participants. Thank you very much for taking your time to join us today. So I'll pass back to our MC, Hui.
Thank you, Melody. And thank you once again, Dr. Yasha, for the informative sharing. I believe that our participants are now having a deeper understanding about digital leadership. We are really honored to have you here today, Dr. Yasha, to share your thoughts with our participants. And it's really our pleasure to be the moderator and the MC for your session. Thank you once again, Dr. Yasha. Well, dear participants, kindly fill in the feedback form for this session, which is the third plenary session. I repeat, the third plenary session. So you can scan the QR code or click on the link provided in the chat box. All right. Now it's 12:26, and ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our lunch break. I would like to inform you all that our lunch break is from now until 2 p.m. So please be back at 2 p.m. It will be a great pleasure to have you all return to this room on time, sharp, as there will be another amazing, interesting session coming up. So relax and please enjoy your lunch. We shall see you guys later. Thank you.
cerita